Makise Joji, a 26-year-old man, went back home looking exhausted. He was just another cog in the machine of society. He had an unreasonable boss, endless overtime, a hopeless future, and a corrupt company. Deep down, he only wished to live quietly in the countryside, surrounded by cats and dogs. While walking along the dark streets, he heard faint cries. The sound was clearly from an animal. As he searched for it, he discovered an injured baby dragon lying weakly on the ground. Decades earlier, strange places called dungeons had suddenly appeared in Japan. These dungeons spread across the world, bringing chaos. Monsters came out from them, and nations struggled to respond. Over time, research into defense and countermeasures reduced the threat. In the present, the danger had lessened, but the dungeons still existed. To keep monsters from escaping, people known as explorers entered the dungeons and collected resources. Becoming an explorer had become a normal job in modern society. With the mix of dungeons, monsters, swords, and magic, the world once seen as fantasy by older generations had turned into everyday reality. Joji wondered if the creature in front of him was truly a dragon. He remembered that monsters sometimes wandered into cities by mistake. The baby dragon before him had serious wounds and looked weak. As Joji moved closer, the dragon suddenly stood and hissed like a stray cat. Startled, Joji pulled back. It felt far scarier than the crows that gathered near the garbage dumps. Still, he knew this was not the time to be afraid. If left alone, the baby dragon would surely die. Joji tried to calm himself and prepared to help the creature. At that moment, a bright light shone from his hand. Back in school, he had been skilled in using healing magic, and that skill now helped him. The baby dragon's wounds closed right away. The creature looked confused and checked the spots where it had been hurt. When it realized the injuries were gone, it squealed and jumped toward Joji, rubbing its cheeks against his hand. Joji felt relieved that it was now better, and he also thought it looked very cute. He then remembered the law that required reporting any monster sightings in the city. Before he could think further, something appeared behind them. The baby dragon pointed toward that direction. Joji turned and heard sharp screeching sounds. A group of spider monsters crawled into the alleyway. Terrified, he shouted with all his strength and ran while holding the baby dragon close. He wondered why spider monsters were showing up in the middle of the city. The dragon began to crawl out of his arms as the monsters closed in. Just as they were about to attack, the dragon opened its mouth and released a glowing beam toward the spiders. The force of the blast sent Joji rolling to the ground. The dragon circled above him, looking cheerful. Joji was amazed at how powerful the small creature actually was. The noise quickly drew the attention of nearby people and the authorities. A policeman felt pity for Joji after such a frightening chase, while a policewoman asked with concern if he was safe. The policeman said incidents like this were very rare. But he also wondered aloud if the creature Joji held was truly a baby dragon. The policewoman thought it looked cute and friendly. The policeman explained that monster taming was not unusual, though it was surprising to see a dragon grow attached to a human. He even suggested that TV reporters might soon rush to cover the story. The policewoman added that dragons themselves were rare. Joji grew nervous and asked if taking the dragon home would cause problems. To his surprise, the policeman told him it was allowed, since tamed monsters were treated as their owner's property. However, he reminded Joji to submit an application at the city office so that no trouble would come later. Just then, the policewoman had an idea. She suggested posting videos of the baby dragon on social media. She explained that cute animals and unusual creatures were very popular and a baby dragon would surely go viral. Joji remembered watching videos like those before. The policewoman even mentioned how a cat owner once earned so much from videos that he managed to build a mansion. Hearing this left both men surprised. Joji then started imagining what it would be like to earn money through videos. His dream of leaving his company job and living quietly in the countryside no longer felt impossible. Still, he felt uneasy about treating the baby dragon only as a way to earn money. The policewoman also remembered that this kind of dragon eventually grew to the size of large machines. Feeding and caring for it would demand a massive amount of resources. Joji pictured himself in the future, thin and weak, apologizing to the dragon for failing to support it before passing away. Not wanting that fate, he firmly decided to earn money by sharing videos of the dragon. The policewoman felt delighted and quickly promised to be their very first fan. Soon after, Joji finally returned home. He called out that he was back, but then he remembered no one would be there to greet him. The reception area was filled with trash bags, and the kitchen sink was stacked with dirty dishes from the past weeks. His mother had died in an accident when he was young, and his father had later passed away from a sudden illness around the time Joji started working. Living alone in the house always felt empty. He lit a stick of incense and placed it on his parents' altar. Then he knelt down and prayed. The baby dragon joined him at the altar. When Joji noticed how messy and tired they both looked, he decided they needed a bath. He filled the tub, washed the baby dragon with soap, and let it splash around happily in the warm water. Afterward, while drying the little dragon, Joji thought again about posting a video online. His friends had once invited him to make a social media account, but he only used it to watch videos and never created any. This time, he turned his camera toward the dragon and began to record. The baby dragon saw what he was doing and started tapping at the phone. Joji could not help but laugh as he pulled it back. Just then, the microwave beeped to announce his meal was ready. On the way home earlier, Joji had read that dragons were omnivorous and could eat almost anything. Curious to try, he offered the baby dragon a piece of fried chicken. He also made sure to capture the moment on video. The dragon opened its mouth wide and took a bite. Its happy reaction showed it enjoyed the food, and soon it ate the rest. Joji felt relieved and pleased that it liked the meal. The food itself was nothing more than a plain convenience store bento, yet eating together made it taste better. The moment filled Joji with a sense of nostalgia, reminding him of the days when he used to share meals with his parents. After the meal, the baby dragon lay on its back with its belly sticking out in a funny way. Joji found it amusing and recorded the moment. He took many photos and videos, planning to upload them to his page later. When he thought about it, Joji realized the baby dragon still did not have a name. He wondered what would suit it best. The dragon's dark body with a white belly reminded him of one of his favorite foods. He remembered how his mother used to make it for him in the past. With that memory, he decided to name the baby dragon Ohagi. Ohagi was a sweet treat made of mashed rice covered in red bean paste. To Joji, the name felt perfect. From that moment, he thought of Ohagi as family. Joji then created a new post online and wrote that he had picked up a dragon. He wasn't sure if he posted it the right way, but soon he grew sleepy and gave in to his bed. The next day would be his day off, but it was already filled with plans. He needed to register Ohagi at the city office, record videos to upload, and visit the veterinary hospital. Even though the list sounded exhausting, he felt eager. For the first time in a while, he found himself enjoying life despite being tied to a tiring job. As Joji rested, Ohagi crawled onto his blanket and curled up beside him. Joji closed his eyes and both of them drifted into sleep together. At that same time, a user named Ryan noticed Joji's post and gave it a like. Ryan was a well-known dungeon streamer with more than 4 million subscribers. During one of her usual streams, she spoke about the dragon that was trending on social media. She thought Ohagi looked very cute and felt excited to see more videos being uploaded. She also wished to have a collaboration stream on her own channel. Ohagi's fame quickly spread across the internet. Joji read many articles and comments about his baby dragon. That was when he finally understood why his phone kept buzzing with non-stop notifications. His single post had turned into something much bigger than he expected. Even when he went to the breeding registration counter, everyone in the city office looked shocked. That reaction showed that dragons were truly rare. With this in mind, Joji decided it was the right time to start uploading videos. He had already gathered all the equipment he needed over the weekend, so he planned to begin filming as soon as he returned home. Not long after, a woman showed up with a tired look on her face. She was Ushimaki Megumi, Joji's junior. He guessed she had stayed up all night again. Her pale and worn-out appearance made it clear she needed rest. Still, she opened an energy drink and drank it as if it were enough to keep her going. Megumi had a dream she was chasing. She wanted to rise to success as a supernova in the streaming world. At that time, she was trying out as a VTuber under the name Ruika Nakomiya, basically a virtual waifu that some of our dear viewers were fond of to the point of not getting a girlfriend. Anyway, once Megumi became famous by herself, she believed she could finally leave the company. She thought all the money she had saved and invested would return to her many times over. Joji noticed her wild eyes and tried to calm her, reminding her it was time to focus on work. At that moment, a man made a crude remark about Megumi, saying she looked too energetic while moving around her melons as if it were for show. He even joked that she should use the melons to bring in clients for the company. That man was none other than the president of Joji's workplace. He was known as the root of the company's problems. The company, an advertising agency for explorers, had gained a bad reputation because of him. Their poor treatment of explorers spread shame across their name, and with their results getting worse each year, the company's future was turning darker. Joji remembered that things had been far better under the previous president's leadership. The perverted president then moved closer to Megumi and offered her a role as his personal secretary. Megumi swallowed her anger and turned him down. Joji stepped in and reminded the president that such behavior counted as harassment in the workplace. The president brushed it off, saying he was only being friendly with his staff. Just then, a serious-looking man wearing glasses appeared and called out the president. He sternly reminded him that there were urgent papers waiting for his approval. The president grumbled that it was a bothersome task, but he still returned to his office. Before the two men could leave, the man with glasses told Joji that someone was waiting for him at the front desk. Joji went downstairs and met a cheerful visitor. It had been a long time since they last saw each other. The visitor was Hazama Genki, the public relations manager of Nagano Pharmaceuticals. He apologized for dropping by without setting an appointment. Joji also apologized for keeping them waiting. Along with manager Genki was someone Joji recognized right away. Furuhata Kazuyoshi had been his friend back in university and now worked at the same pharmaceutical company as Genki. Nagano Pharmaceuticals specialized in health foods, supplements, and energy drinks. They also sold portable food packs that dungeon explorers often carried. The manager noticed that Joji looked tired, so he offered him one of their company's drinks. Joji said he was always thankful for their products. Once Joji was seated, the manager explained that he had come for important business. He wanted Joji's baby dragon Ohagi to help promote their new product. Joji was shocked and wondered how they had even found out about his dragon. The answer was simple. As an old friend, Kazuyoshi followed Joji on social media and was surprised when one of Joji's posts went viral. The manager had also been amazed to learn that Joji was the dragon's owner. He assumed Joji planned to post more videos and believed Ohagi would be the perfect image for their new product line. He said he truly wanted to work with him. Joji asked if they were certain about this idea. Kazuyoshi explained that this was more of a personal request between friends and not an official company matter. He promised Joji that all recognition would go to him. He even added that if things went well, Joji could soon stand on his own without needing outside help. Joji trusted his words and decided to give it a try. None of them realized that the company's corrupt president had been eavesdropping on their conversation. The president opened Joji's social media account and discovered the baby dragon. He found it unacceptable that Joji was making deals without his knowledge. When work ended, Joji prepared to head home, but Megumi asked him to wait. As they walked along the street, Megumi asked about the visitor, and Joji explained what had happened. He said it was an opportunity and that he would start filming as soon as he returned home. Megumi suddenly clung to him and asked to be hired. Joji was caught off guard and wondered what was wrong. Megumi revealed that she wanted to quit her company job because of long hours, low pay, and a president who harassed her. What troubled her even more was that her VTuber activities were failing, leaving her with heavy debt. She swore she would do anything as long as Joji did not abandon her. The scene grew noisy enough to draw the attention of people nearby. Joji asked her not to say things that could be misunderstood. Megumi continued, saying she could handle video editing, make thumbnails, and manage social media. She reminded Joji that his project was important and questioned if he could manage it alone as an amateur. In the end, she convinced him and followed him to his house. She stepped inside as if she belonged there, and Joji remarked that she did not seem like someone who had just forced her way in. Megumi insisted she was only a devoted junior who wanted to support her senior. Then she asked about the baby dragon. Just when Joji thought Ohagi was probably sleeping, the baby dragon suddenly flew toward the entrance and crashed right into his stomach. Joji fell to the floor from the impact. Megumi took the chance to greet the little dragon. Frightened, Ohagi hid behind Joji for safety. Megumi felt down when she saw that and wondered why. Joji blamed her for scaring the baby dragon, saying it was natural for Ohagi to be cautious. Carrying her bag of groceries, Megumi explained that she had come prepared. She went straight to cooking, saying that both people and monsters always loved good food. She believed everyone would be won over if their hunger was satisfied. Megumi quickly prepared a meal for them and encouraged them to eat. Ohagi immediately dove into the food and enjoyed every bite. Even Joji admitted that Megumi's cooking was impressive. She then mentioned that there was more to share. Joji felt touched while eating a true home-cooked meal. He secretly wished Megumi could cook for him every day. Hearing such a thought shocked Megumi, since those words carried another meaning. Her cheeks warmed as she quietly served him another bowl of rice. When they finished eating, Megumi set up the streaming device and asked Joji to power it on. Joji pressed the button, and in an instant, glowing screens appeared around them. The device floated in the air and aimed directly at them. It was Joji's first time seeing such advanced magical technology. Megumi was surprised to learn that Joji had spent so much for the equipment. She explained that it was a top model, widely known among dungeon streamers. It had auto-tracking features and a magical shield that was said to endure monster attacks. Filled with excitement, she urged Joji to begin recording with it. Joji felt surprised by the sudden filming session. Megumi went behind the scenes and recorded Joji together with Ohagi. In front of the camera, Joji welcomed everyone to Ohagi's channel and introduced the sponsorship product from Nagano Pharmaceuticals. It was a new item called Dragon Energy, which looked like colorful gummies for kids but was actually food made for explorers. He placed some on a plate and wondered if Ohagi would eat them. Ohagi then took a mouthful and her face brightened as she enjoyed the taste and the feeling of the gummies in her mouth. Joji felt happy that she liked them and decided to try some himself. He said the fizzy texture was fun and the taste was good. He also added that it was a nutritional supplement approved by the government, so it was safe to eat more. He eagerly encouraged everyone to get some. Megumi clapped in excitement. She said it was perfect and ready to be used right away. Joji asked if she was really sure, but Megumi assured him that Ohagi's reactions were excellent. She told him to leave the rest to her. Then she opened her laptop and explained that she would turn the clip into something viral that could please Nagano Pharmaceuticals. She also said this was the moment to show the results of her long hours of study, even though she had not been successful as a VTuber. Joji felt amazed that she could admit such things without sounding sad. He was amazed to see her never giving up and still working hard even with her current job. Megumi said she could always give her best when it was something she loved. She pointed out that he was actually the more impressive one for handling the daily overtime at such a harsh company. Joji then shared advice he thought was important from his own experience. He explained that it was wise to always keep a resignation letter hidden away in a bag. Having the thought of, "I can leave this place anytime," made a person stronger. Surprised, Megumi said she would keep that in mind. Afterward, she suggested recording more eating scenes. The next day, Megumi went to work feeling very sleepy. They had been so focused on filming that they barely rested. Joji apologized for making her stay until the video was done. Still, thanks to her, they managed to create some great videos and saved them on a drive. Just as Joji suggested reaching out to Nakayoshi right away, the president suddenly tapped his shoulder and grabbed the drive. He said he was touched to see Joji working through the night for the company. Joji quickly explained that the drive did not contain company data. Megumi demanded that the president return it. The president said he already knew it was connected to Nagano Pharmaceuticals and the request for the dragon Joji was keeping. Joji asked how he even knew about that. The president explained that a baby dragon was like a money tree and the world would never ignore it. He ordered Joji to hand the dragon over to the company. Both Joji and Megumi were shocked. The president said they would use the baby dragon as the company mascot. TV commercials and merchandise would bring huge demand. The company's results would rise without limit. The dragon would work, and everyone would profit. He insisted it was the best idea. He told Joji it would not be for free and offered money for the dragon. He even promised a promotion. He claimed he could put the dragon to better use than Joji ever could alone. Joji warned him not to cause any trouble. He had only met Ohagi not long ago, yet she had already become very dear to him. They often shared meals together and even slept in the same space. Those small moments made Joji realize that Ohagi was truly precious to him. Megumi started to feel worried. Joji then grabbed the president by the neck because he hated hearing him speak about buying or using Ohagi only for profit. To Joji, Ohagi was family, not something to be treated like an object. He swore that he would protect her no matter what. The president became furious. He could not believe that a simple employee had the courage to stand against him. At that moment, Megumi quickly used the chance to snatch the drive from the president's hands. She demanded that he return the important videos she and Joji had made. The president grew angrier and shoved Megumi away while calling her bothersome. Joji grew concerned that she might fall, but she was safe because the department manager caught her just in time. The manager then told the president that he had urgent business to discuss. The president, already irritated, shouted that he was too busy. Without hesitation, the department manager handed him a huge pile of resignation letters. The president's eyes widened in shock as he saw the overwhelming stack. The manager explained that almost all the employees had signed them. No one wanted to endure the president's behavior any longer. At that very moment, staff from the Labor Standards Office arrived and dragged the president away for questioning. Once the president was gone, Joji asked the department manager what was going on. The manager revealed that he planned to go independent and start his own company. He had been waiting for the right time and everything was now falling into place. He had also heard that Joji finally discovered what he wanted to pursue in life. The manager encouraged him to cut ties here and walk his own path. Joji felt joyful and agreed with him. The president, however, overheard them and shouted angrily, calling them traitors. Megumi called out to him with worry, which made him think she was still on his side. But Megumi had only forgotten to hand in her resignation letter earlier. When she finally gave it, the president realized the truth. That became the final blow. Megumi, now free, felt completely refreshed. Soon after, Joji and Ohagi stood in front of a large building. Many other people wearing equipment gathered nearby. Someone called out to Joji and apologized for making him wait. Joji never imagined that he would one day step into a dungeon, especially after all the years he spent working as a company employee. A few days earlier, Joji had asked the doctor about what he meant when he mentioned lack of exercise. Joji still could not believe that Ohagi had been diagnosed with metabolic syndrome even though she was just a child. He admitted that Megumi's cooking was so tasty that he had also been eating too much recently. Feeling shy about the attention, Megumi gave Joji a light smack on the back and said he had praised her far too much. The doctor explained clearly that the condition was not simple obesity. To be exact, it could be called magic deficiency and combat deficiency. The doctor was Kawazu Keru, the director of Kawazu Animal Hospital. He explained that the reason humans and other beings like Ohagi could use magic was because of spirits. Joji remembered learning about this during his school years. Dr. Kawazu then went on to explain that spirits were magical life forms created entirely from energy. These spirits lived inside the body, and because they produced magical power, the host could use magic. Back when dungeons first appeared decades ago, there had been great disorder. As a countermeasure, the government at that time gave young citizens inoculations that allowed them to carry spirits. Joji also remembered that people could sometimes use magic from birth if their parents already had it. Dr. Kawazu confirmed this was true, since the power did not originally come from humans themselves. Monsters, however, were different. Their spirits were naturally present and played an important role in their bodies. Ohagi's current problem seemed to be weak spirit growth caused by not using enough magic. The doctor explained that it would be good for her to use magic freely inside a dungeon. Joji felt surprised by the idea, yet Megumi saw it as a perfect chance for them to begin a new life as explorers. Dr. Kawazu had forgotten to mention one last thing. He explained that Joji's healing magic was impressive. Ohagi's damaged organs and outer wounds had completely healed. The fact that there were no after effects felt almost like a miracle. He believed Joji would grow into a capable explorer. In the present, Joji and Ohagi were welcomed into the Explorer Management Bureau, which people often called the Guild. Megumi came along with them. A staff member gave Joji a priority number for registration and asked him to sit and wait. Surrounded by the tough explorers, Joji felt uneasy. He thought becoming one did not suit him. Megumi reminded him that he had Ohagi by his side and suggested he could even hire an escort if he was afraid of fighting. She also pointed to the posted requests on the board. While waiting, Megumi noticed the sponsored video with Nagano Pharmaceuticals was getting an amazing response. Monetization had been approved, and both views and subscriber counts kept rising. She believed Joji and Ohagi had already become popular and should take advantage of the momentum to start dungeon streaming. At that moment, a huge man full of muscles walked over after hearing the words dungeon streaming. He took off his sunglasses and revealed a sharp glare. He asked if Joji was really registering as an explorer. Both Joji and Megumi felt frightened. The scene looked like the usual bullying where weaklings were told to quit. The man slapped Joji's shoulder, yet it did not hurt at all. Instead, he showed excitement when he saw Ohagi, saying he was looking forward to dungeon streaming. He even showed the dragon energy drink he had bought as a fan. Joji expressed his thanks, but Megumi realized things were turning bad. The attention of other Ohagi fans was growing. Soon a crowd rushed in, and a stampede broke out. In the middle of the chaos, someone grabbed Joji by force and told them to follow. As they hid, Megumi mentioned that the two of them had become quite popular. Joji apologized to their savior for causing trouble. The man was simply glad they were safe. He said he had heard about the escort matter they mentioned earlier and asked for more details. Because of that, Joji and Ohagi had come to the dungeon with Kuroko Hanzo serving as their escort. Joji gave him thanks for everything, from helping with the explorer registration to guiding them through the dungeon procedures. Hanzo said that supporting beginners was part of his work. Exploring together with his favorite Ohagi also felt like a great honor. It turned out he was a fan as well, though he kept himself in check. Joji then asked if Hanzo wanted to take some photos. The two men ended up taking turns capturing Ohagi's pictures and later posted them on social media. Before they stepped into the dungeon, Hanzo reminded Joji about his exploration permit. He explained that tapping the permit at the entrance sent the explorer's details, location, and entry time to the guild. It was a system designed so that a rescue team could be sent if someone failed to return within a certain period. Hanzo explained that the path they had taken from the entrance would guide them to the dungeon. He also shared the history of these strange places, which appeared in the form of crystal trees. They had first shown up decades ago together with monsters. This discovery became one of humanity's greatest finds. People were drawn to dungeons because they were seen as treasure troves filled with rare materials. Their rise even created a new profession called explorers. Over time, strict rules were put in place and safety improved. Yet this did not mean danger was gone. Hanzo reminded Joji to stay alert. Joji gave a small flinch at his words. Hanzo then told him not to worry since he would act as his escort and even Ohagi was with them. Joji felt comfort in that thought. The group finally reached the end of the path where a staircase came into view. Hanzo announced that they had arrived. It was a world that people still did not fully understand, and many areas remained unexplored. Joji stepped toward the giant crystal tree. Hanzo placed his hand on its trunk and welcomed him to the dungeon. A sudden bright light covered the area. In an instant, Joji found himself somewhere new. Wonder filled him as he realized he had entered a dungeon. Ohagi quickly flew around, exploring the surroundings. Joji was struck by how they had been transported right into the middle of a forest in just a moment. Hanzo explained that such a change was always surprising the first time. For now, they were inside a zone made for beginners, which meant the monsters here were weak. Since they had no set goal yet, Hanzo suggested they explore the area at a steady pace first. Joji agreed, but before anything else, he set up the streaming device and began his very first live stream. He welcomed everyone who joined the channel. Ohagi flew in front of the camera as if she was greeting the viewers. Joji explained that they were inside a dungeon, and since it was his first time, he had brought an escort with him. Hanzo only shook his head in silence. Joji added that he could not show his escort's face, so no introduction was possible. Without warning, both Ohagi and Hanzo sensed something strange. Hanzo realized that monsters were drawing near. At first he felt 2 of them, but then the number suddenly became 3. 3 giant spider monsters appeared before them. Ohagi screeched and released a dragon blast that completely destroyed the creatures, leaving nothing behind. Hanzo and the viewers were amazed at her overwhelming power. Joji thanked Ohagi for keeping them safe but reminded her to hold back a little. Afterward, Hanzo and Ohagi kept fighting the monsters that showed up. Hanzo thought there were more than usual and found the task bothersome. Still, he admitted that Joji's support spells such as Speed Up and Defense Up were very useful. Joji felt glad because it proved that his recent training had finally paid off. Even so, Hanzo noticed that the forest felt calmer than it should have been. He sensed something strange lingering in the air. Around that time, Ohagi spotted something and suddenly flew in a certain direction on her own. Worried, Joji wondered what had caught her attention. Hanzo decided they should follow her. The 2 men eventually caught up and found Ohagi staring ahead with a sad look on her face as she faced something. What Ohagi had discovered was a huge wolf that was badly hurt and bleeding. Ohagi became worried when the animal slowly opened its eyes and gave a weak growl. Joji felt a strong need to help, but Hanzo warned him not to get close since a wounded beast could be dangerous. Even so, Joji could not step away. The moment reminded him of how he first met Ohagi. He believed the wolf would be safe because he planned to heal it. The viewers watching grew uneasy. Joji tried to calm them, but some viewers urged him not to fear the wolf in front of him. Instead, they warned about the danger above his head. Confused, Joji glanced upward and saw a terrifying spider monster. Its lower body was like a giant spider while its upper half looked human. It let out a sharp screech and lunged down at him. Hanzo managed to pull Joji away just in time. The spider monster screamed again and the entire forest shook. Joji asked what was happening and Hanzo explained that reinforcements were on the way. He realized escaping while keeping Joji safe might no longer be possible. At that moment, Joji cast his strongest support magic on both Hanzo and Ohagi, asking them to hold on for as long as they could. Hanzo was stunned that Joji still wanted to save the wolf. Joji understood it was reckless, but he told himself he would act as a decoy if things grew worse. He could not ignore a life he had the chance to protect. Hanzo wondered why Joji would go so far for a wolf he had just met, showing no care for danger or reward. Then it became clear. This selfless nature was what drew Ohagi to Joji in the first place. Joji then directed Ohagi to fight the larger spider while Hanzo handled the smaller ones around them. The viewers watched in suspense as Hanzo fought skillfully. When a spider tried to ambush Joji, Hanzo cut it down with sharp, precise moves. Meanwhile, Ohagi battled the massive spider. He was struck hard and thrown back, and the spider thought victory was certain. Yet Ohagi suddenly unleashed a dragon blast. The attack was powerful, but the monster moved quickly and slipped out of the way. Joji noticed the wolf's wounds were not healing fast enough. Something seemed to be blocking the recovery. He fought the urge to panic and focused harder. Then he felt a strange presence and thought he heard a voice. The wolf looked directly into his eyes. It told him it would lend him its strength. Joji was shocked when he suddenly heard a voice inside his mind. At first he thought it was Hanzo, but Hanzo was still busy fighting monsters. Joji then guessed it could only be the wolf. In that moment, he felt something strange connect to him, and it was clear that the link came from the wolf. He realized they had somehow formed a bond. Sometime earlier, Dr. Kawazu had spoken about this. After finishing Ohagi's medical check, Ohagi asked if they were going home. Joji explained they would head to the guild afterward. Megumi, confused, asked if Joji could really understand what Ohagi was saying. Dr. Kawazu confirmed that Joji and Ohagi were connected. Both Joji and Megumi wondered what he meant. The doctor explained it was one of many theories. He said that when a deep bond of trust formed between a human and a monster, their spirits connected and they could share thoughts. This was sometimes seen as a form of taming, though in a deeper way. He believed that kind of bond was something special. Now in the present, Joji understood what was happening between him and the wolf. The great wolf guided him to accept the bond. They pressed their foreheads together, and a sudden flow of magical power rushed into him. At the same time, his mind was filled with strange magical knowledge he had never known before. The wolf urged him to use it. Though Joji did not fully understand, he reached out to Ohagi and let the unknown power flow through her. Ohagi began to shine brightly, and for a brief moment the battle seemed to pause. Hanzo and the audience watching the livestream were left confused, as the light grew stronger and spread across the forest. From the glowing sphere of light, a massive dragon emerged. Everyone was stunned as the small and cute Ohagi changed into a full-grown dragon. Joji stood frozen in shock, and Ohagi herself looked down at her huge claws and wings in disbelief. The terrifying form made the spider monsters panic and scatter. Even the giant spider trembled in fear. Ohagi released a mighty roar and the enormous spider turned and fled in terror. Joji realized the monster was running away. Ohagi then drew magical energy into her mouth, forming a glowing ball of light. Beams of energy shot out from the ball and chased after the fleeing spider like guided arrows. The attack struck the monster directly, and in an instant the huge spider was destroyed. After the battle, Joji managed to heal the wolf's wounds. Hanzo checked the area and confirmed that there were no signs of the spiders returning. He decided that they had made it through safely. Ohagi then walked up to Joji and cuddled against him. Joji noticed how much she had grown and wondered if she would return to normal soon. The viewers enjoyed watching a large dragon act so spoiled and affectionate. The wolf explained that Ohagi would turn back soon, and the viewers were amazed that Joji had casually gained another monster as a companion. While they were still talking, Ohagi finally returned to her usual size. Hanzo then asked what they should do with the great wolf. The wolf declared that he would join them and wished to stay at Joji's side. The group had faced tough moments, but they had won the fight and gained a strong new ally. Joji wrapped up their channel's first dungeon stream and thanked everyone for watching. The viewers looked forward to more videos, and wanted to see the great wolf in action as well. After ending the stream, Joji thanked Hanzo for his effort. Hanzo admitted that he should be the one apologizing since he had put their lives in danger. Still, he said he had never seen a monster like that before. He had only heard about the mythical creature Arachne in old stories and could not believe one had appeared in a beginner dungeon. He then pulled out a strange box and said he would report the matter to the guild. Joji asked about the box. Hanzo explained that it was an item box, equipment made from mimics. It allowed explorers to store the bodies and materials of defeated monsters more easily. Joji thought it was more convenient than a normal bag, but Hanzo pointed out its limits. It could not store inorganic objects or living creatures. It was only useful for collecting monster remains and materials. Joji felt disappointed that he could not use it to store his streaming gear. As Hanzo stored the monster's body, Joji noticed something crawling out of it. At first he thought it was only his imagination, but he was almost sure he saw movement. Hanzo then wondered if the wolf's wounds had been caused by the spider monster. He believed it was not, since the wolf looked stronger than that strange creature. The wolf explained that other enemies existed. He said he had been attacked before entering the forest, but added that those enemies were not nearby anymore. He admitted he had only been caught off guard because of the injuries he still carried. Joji repeated this to Hanzo, who then guessed that the weaker monsters only appeared because the wolf had been serving as a natural deterrent. When the great wolf became injured, the spiders had grown bolder and stronger. For the moment, the danger had ended, but Hanzo believed the dungeon's difficulty level needed to be reviewed. Joji agreed, though his thoughts focused more on the great wolf's strange words. The wolf seemed like he came from outside this dungeon. Joji began to wonder if monsters could come from other places as well. They might even come from another world linked to the dungeons. The idea made the whole dungeon feel more mysterious, like a scene taken from a fantasy story in Joji's eyes. Later, inside Dr. Kawazu's hospital, the doctor explained that Joji showed potential as an explorer, though he had not expected him to tame the great wolf on his very first dive. Joji apologized for troubling him again. Both he and Hanzo were now clean after using the showers and lockers set up outside the dungeon. Dr. Kawazu greeted Hanzo as an old acquaintance, which surprised Joji. Hanzo explained that the doctor had once been well known for monster research, often helping the guild and respected among explorers. Kawazu admitted he had only become a private doctor after leaving behind the politics of larger hospitals. Joji found it surprising that such an important figure stood before him. The doctor confirmed that the great wolf's wounds had already healed. He also mentioned hearing that Ohagi had grown to an unusual size, but he noticed nothing unhealthy about her. Joji felt relieved. Hanzo then opened his item box and showed the doctor the monster that had attacked them. Kawazu said he had never seen such a creature before. As Joji stared more closely at the remains, he finally realized the movement he had noticed earlier came from a slug-like thing crawling over the body. Suddenly, a winged puppy suddenly ran across the floor. The owner apologized, saying her pet often got excited whenever it saw the doctor. Dr. Kawazu felt relieved that the puppy was always full of energy. Then one of the strange slugs dropped onto the puppy's head and everything changed. The slug-like creature clung tightly, and the puppy turned violent and aggressive. Everyone was shocked by the sudden change. Luckily, the great wolf quickly pinned the struggling puppy to the ground. The owner panicked while the doctor called for help to bring the animal into the examination room. Joji stood frozen, wondering what was happening. Later, Joji and the others asked about the puppy's condition. The doctor explained that its life was not in danger. It only needed to rest overnight to recover safely. By the next day, the puppy returned to normal, which made Joji feel relieved. Dr. Kawazu also revealed that the slug-like creature had acted as a parasite on the puppy, similar to what had happened with the spider monsters. He said it looked like a slug, but most of its body was made from magical energy. These creatures were probably parasites that fed on a host's spirit and drained magical power, which caused aggression and changes in the body. However, since this was a creature no one had ever seen before, the doctor admitted there was still much he did not know about it. Hanzo finally realized why the monsters inside the dungeon had been fiercer than what was written in past records. The doctor confirmed that the strange spider monster was completely covered in slugs. It was not the arachne Hanzo once thought, but a mutated form that came from normal spider monsters. After his findings, the doctor told Hanzo to report everything to the guild. Joji grew worried about whether Ohagi and the Great Wolf had been infected as well. The doctor, however, saw nothing unusual in them and assured they were safe, though he still reminded them to stay cautious. From studying the infected puppy earlier, he discovered how its strength and magic grew at an incredible rate. The slugs seemed to give a strong boost to abilities. If this truth spread to the public, it could easily be abused by people seeking power. Because of this risk, the doctor asked them not to speak carelessly about it, and to let the guild begin a secret investigation. Joji found it hard to believe such creatures even existed. As he headed back home, he thought about how they might meet the same danger in their next journey and how careful they needed to be. At that moment, Megumi flew toward him and hugged him tightly, relieved that he was safe. She had been worried since the stream had ended some time ago. She considered the livestream an incredible sight and remembered how intense the battle appeared. She admired Ohagi's final strike, which had taken the form of a huge dragon, and she was impressed that Joji had even managed to tame a great wolf. Joji then realized he still needed to give the wolf a name. Since the creature remained calm and composed, Megumi suggested that it deserved something that sounded mature. After thinking for a while, Joji chose the name Senzai. Megumi felt his naming sense was strange, yet to their surprise, the great wolf accepted it without hesitation. There might have been some problems, but Joji knew worrying would not solve them. Instead, he chose to focus on celebrating their new family member. To honor the moment, Megumi prepared special meat for the feast. She welcomed Zenzai into the family and praised Ohagi for the effort back in the dungeon. She also recognized their first dungeon stream as a big success. At the same time, Hanzo went to an institute and delivered the slug creature that Dr. Kawazu had given him. A researcher accepted it and said it would be urgently studied at the guild. Hanzo added that Dr. Kawazu would continue his own research and share his results later. He warned them that the material was highly dangerous and needed to be handled with great care. He also asked that the work be kept completely secret. What Hanzo did not realize was that someone nearby had been listening and quietly smirked. Soon after, Joji and his group went to an amusement park called Monster Park. Joji felt amazed by how lively the place was. His excitement grew as he thought about the special event where Ohagi would be the main attraction. A few days before this, Joji and Ohagi had shared on their channel about a collaboration event with Monster Park. In simple terms, Monster Park was a huge playground made for monsters. The park had two large areas, one for the monsters and another for the spectators. The monsters could move and play freely, while people watched them up close. It was like a mix of a dog park and a zoo. The park was built to bring joy to both monsters and those who loved them. Joji announced that he and Ohagi would attend, and he invited everyone to come. That announcement was how they received the chance to visit Monster Park. The park director, Gyobu Fukujiro, came out to greet Joji and the others. While they stayed out of sight for a moment, the group noticed that many of Ohagi's fans had arrived. The director told Joji not to feel pressured and to enjoy the park as much as possible. Experiencing it in that way would help him understand and promote the place better. They then stepped into the area where monsters could run, fly, and play freely. After showing them around, the director left them for a while. Joji saw many kinds of play equipment and told his monsters to enjoy themselves fully. He then approached some monster owners to ask if his group could join in. At first they tried to allow it, but once they caught sight of Sanzai, they quickly ran away. Joji then scolded Sanzai for frightening the others. Just then, a small monster came closer to them. It let out a short cry, and Ohagi answered back. Somehow, the two quickly became friends. Joji was surprised by how fast the tanuki connected, as if they were already best friends. Still, he felt like he had seen that tanuki somewhere before. A girl soon arrived and apologized for her bunbuku. She greeted Joji and admitted she enjoyed his streams. Joji was shocked when he recognized her. The girl was Cha-Cha from the channel Bunbuku Diary. Gyobu Cha-Cha was a well-known streamer who made lighthearted videos with Bunbuku the Tanuki. Bunbuku Diary had been Joji's source of comfort back during his long corporate days. Now that he heard her last name, he realized something important. Cha-Cha confirmed that Director Gyobu was her grandfather. She said she often heard stories from him, and since Bunbuku also wanted to join in, she suggested they explore together. Joji felt glad to hear that. While Joji told his monsters that he finally had a friend, Cha-Cha's wild imagination started running. She pictured Ohagi as a small and pure dragon boy, and Senzai as a strong and rough uncle. The thought excited her, and she began to drool at the idea of their story. But in her mind, she actually wanted to pair them with Joji. She imagined her next doujinshi filling many pages. Joji suddenly felt uneasy, as if something strange was happening, but Cha-Cha simply brushed it off and said nothing. After spending more time with his monsters, Joji began to feel pain in his body. Cha-Cha explained that the obstacle course had been designed for monsters, not people. Joji said he still wanted to play with them since they worked so hard for him. He believed he should push himself at least this much. Ohagi supported him with cheerful energy. Senzai, however, warned him not to overdo it and pulled him back. Even so, the three of them kept going through the monster obstacle course while streaming, which looked more like a trial for Joji than fun. Once they had played too much, Cha-Cha guided them to the salon where they could wash off all the mud. Joji was surprised to see equipment large enough to clean huge machines. The staff focused on washing Senzai with all their effort. After they finished, the massive wolf shook itself dry. Joji ended up soaked from head to toe, while Cha-Cha stayed safe in her raincoat, already prepared for something like that. After that, they went to the hot springs to relax in the warm water. This part was even shown on livestream with special permission. A bath after exercise felt so good that Joji thought his body might melt away. After resting for a short while in the open-air bath, they headed to the restaurant where tasty food was being served. Joji and Ohagi enjoyed the meal, and Cha-Cha felt happy seeing that they were satisfied. Joji thought it felt like staying at a resort. Then, a customer suddenly complained about the food. Joji almost choked when he realized the person was actually his former president. The man kept saying the meat was cheap, claimed he was being tricked, and demanded to see the manager. Joji was shocked to find him in Monster Park. The president lit a cigarette, then noticed Joji and acted surprised to see the now well-known streamer. He explained that he came as a regular customer since he also started raising monsters. By his side was a slime, but Joji noticed a strange small machine hidden inside it. Cha-Cha stepped in and warned the president not to disturb other visitors. She also reminded him that smoking was not allowed inside the park. The president told her to be quiet and crushed his cigarette into the slime's body. Everyone was stunned that he used his own pet slime like an ashtray. He argued that it was fine because slimes could eat and dissolve anything. Cha-Cha pointed out that smoke was still poison to the creature. Seeing this abuse, Joji grew angry and questioned if the man was really its owner. The president mocked him, asking if he was doubting him, and warned Joji not to ruin his public image. Senzai could not hold back any longer and struck the floor hard with his foot. He and Ohagi glared at the president with intimidating force. The man grew frightened and muttered the typical villain excuse that he would let things go this time before leaving with his slime. Joji was unable to stop him, and Cha-Cha felt sorry for the poor creature. Ohagi and the others kept playing while Cha-Cha gave thanks to Joji for warning the complainer earlier. Joji wished to say sorry for the trouble she had caused, but she still found it hard to believe that some people treated monsters as nothing more than objects. In the past, when her grandfather was still young, monsters were only seen as frightening creatures. People could not even picture living together peacefully with them like they did now. Yet some monsters turned out to be gentle and caring. Her grandfather wanted everyone to understand this, so he built the facility as a place where monsters could live close to humans like friends and even family. To her, the park was a treasure worth protecting. At the same time, the president quietly moved behind them and pulled out a bottle from a paper bag. Inside the bottle was a slug. While playing, Ohagi threw a ball too hard and Bunbuku chased after it. The bottle holding the slug rolled toward him. All of a sudden, loud screams echoed across the facility. Bunbuku and several other monsters turned violent and uncontrollable. Their owners panicked, ran for safety, and cried out for help. Cha-Cha was shocked to see Bunbuku and the others acting so wild. The director soon arrived, demanding to know what was going on. Bunbuku tried to attack him, but Senzai managed to block the angry Tanuki with ease. Cha-Cha rushed to Senzai's side to make sure he was safe. Joji quickly healed Bunbuku and told Cha-Cha that the Tanuki would recover. As Joji worked, several slugs began to fall off Bunbuku's body, leaving both Joji and Senzai surprised. Right then, Hanzo contacted Joji with an urgent message. He explained that the spider monster's body had been stolen along with the slugs. Joji felt shocked when he realized they were caught in a commotion that seemed to be caused by the slugs. Hanzo also found this news surprising. Joji said they were already following the culprit's trail by tracking the scent. Not long after, Dr. Kawazu asked Hanzo to pass him the phone. He told Joji to use either Ohagi's magic or his own on the slugs. He reminded Joji that Senzai had no slugs when he examined him earlier. After studying the case, he discovered that Ohagi's magic energy had the power to destroy the slugs. Since Joji's spirit was connected with Ohagi's, his magic could work the same way. Remembering this, Joji realized the slugs had started to die when he healed Banboku. At that moment, they finally caught sight of the culprit. Joji was stunned to see his former president holding the slugs. The president admitted that he had been hired to create trouble in the park. He explained that large corporations always had enemies, so dirty work often took place behind the scenes. He then released the slugs into his slime, declaring that he had been waiting for the day when the park was full of visitors. It was also his chance to teach Joji a lesson for being bold while earning money at the same time. For him, it was like hitting 2 targets with 1 strike. The slime then changed into a massive monster coated in dirt, and the president ordered it to destroy everything. Joji responded by making Ohagi shift into her giant form. She fired a strong dragon blast at the slime, but it failed to work. The dirt armor was too solid, blocking the magic from reaching the true body inside. Joji realized he needed another method. Unlike normal magic, healing magic could flow throughout the whole body. With that thought, he decided to combine his power with Ohagi's. He carefully directed his healing energy into her, focusing on their deep bond and the flow of shared magic. Once the transfer was complete, he sent her forward. Ohagi released a breath that mixed both of their powers. When the slime was struck, the slugs rushed out in panic, and the thick dirt armor cracked apart. A cleansed slime finally appeared and collapsed toward Joji. As it fell, Joji and the slime met eyes, and in that instant they became strangely connected. In the end, the president was caught by the authorities. Megumi rushed over after noticing the chaos when she turned on the television. With this, Joji realized that the company would soon fall into complete bankruptcy. It was already a small miracle that the president had survived. While the president's case was set aside, Megumi noticed that Joji had managed to tame another monster. Joji believed they simply formed a natural bond. Cha-Cha and her grandfather then appeared. They expressed their thanks for saving both them and the park. Cha-Cha made a strong promise to repay the debt and held Joji's hands tightly. Megumi quickly stepped in, pointing out the situation before it became too sentimental. Cha-Cha felt surprised and confused. She never thought Joji had a younger companion who could act so possessive. She even pictured Megumi as a boy in her thoughts and became flustered by the idea. Megumi realized what Cha-Cha was thinking and found it unsettling. Joji reminded her that Cha-Cha was simply a good kid. When things calmed down, Megumi asked about the slime's name. Joji explained that he had already chosen one. He announced that the slime would now be part of his family, and once they returned home, he promised to hold a small welcome party. The name he gave was Kanton. The slime seemed to enjoy the name right away. As always, Megumi commented on Joji's unusual way of naming things. The next morning, Megumi forcefully woke Joji. Still half asleep, he thought he needed more rest after staying awake the whole night. But Megumi urged him to check outside. At first, Joji believed there would be nothing unusual waiting there. Yet to his shock, a tall crystal tree stood in the backyard, gleaming in the morning light. They were left confused. Megumi believed it was the same thing she had suspected. Joji found it hard to accept since he thought there was no way something like that could appear in his own backyard. The monsters then pushed them forward and they landed on the grass. Joji ended up squashed under Megumi's weight. When he tried to stand, he noticed a wide plain where the monsters could freely move. Joji struggled to believe what he was seeing. A dungeon had somehow appeared right at home. For the moment, Joji and the others chose to explore the strange place. Kanton lifted Joji into the air to see the area from above. From that height, he saw no trace of monsters or even their shadows. A thick grassland stretched from the gate, and forests with rivers could be seen far in the distance. Joji thought it looked like an endless world, but when he walked further ahead, he suddenly vanished from sight. The others were startled. Luckily, Joji was only sent back to the entrance. Everyone was shocked by what happened. The dungeon seemed designed to return anyone to the starting point at certain places. The space that looked so massive was actually limited, though it was still large enough to explore. Megumi remembered reading that dungeons sometimes appeared on private property, but this one had come without warning. Joji agreed there had been no signs before it appeared. Then he remembered the spot where the crystal tree had sprouted. The night before, they had been enjoying Megumi's cooking as usual, with Kanton now joining their group. Suddenly, Ohagi felt the need to relieve herself and flew to the backyard. She quickly dug into the soil and did her business there before covering the hole. Joji was left puzzled by her actions. She had chosen the ground outside instead of the bathroom inside. She explained she simply felt like it and finished as if nothing unusual happened. Joji could only assume that Ohagi's act had somehow caused the birth of the dungeon. Not long after, Dr. Kawazu arrived and was struck with surprise. He sensed that the magical energy inside the dungeon almost perfectly matched Ohagi's own energy. Joji thought it might be something unusual, but the doctor explained that it was not unusual at all. Still, he believed it was important enough for an academic presentation. All entrances that existed around the world were connected and shared the same flow of magical energy. However, the tree in Joji's backyard gave off a completely different kind of magic. It was a unique case. The doctor confirmed that the dungeon was without a doubt tied to Ohagi. Joji assumed she was the one who created it, yet he wondered why it had suddenly appeared. Dr. Kawazu guessed it might be linked to Joji taming a new monster. He explained that every time Joji tamed one, Ohagi's magical power grew stronger. This sudden boost might have granted her the ability to form dungeons. Joji thanked him for the visit. As the doctor left and stepped into his car, he still felt amazed and puzzled. Meanwhile, the man who caused trouble at the monster park continued to say he had been hired by an unknown figure. The person who gave him the order, as well as the source of the strange slugs, remained a mystery. The case stayed unsolved, and the doctor hoped Joji and his friends would not be dragged into any more incidents. At the same time, Megumi wondered what they should do with the dungeon. Joji had already researched it and found that dungeon rights belonged to the landowner. Still, it had to be managed carefully so monsters would not escape. Their dungeon, though, was different. It held no monsters, only wide open space and nature. It was safe. Joji felt it was the perfect chance to turn their dream into reality. He decided to build a monster ranch inside Ohagi Dungeon. Megumi found it hard to believe he had gone so literal when naming a dungeon created by Ohagi. When they thought about living a slow life, the first thing they did was start a home garden. After some light weeding, Joji began to till the ground. He tried his hardest, but the soil was too tough for him. Just as he was about to give up, Kanton suddenly made strange noises. The slime then split into several parts and shaped its body into tools that looked like hoes. Joji was amazed as he watched Kanton dig into the earth with ease. He tried to help again but failed, so Kanton finished the rest of the work alone. The next day, Joji felt thankful to Kanton for handling everything. He looked forward to seeing their plants grow and hoped they would bear fruit in the future. To his surprise, there were already 3 large root crops standing in the field. Joji was puzzled. They looked like radishes, but it was impossible for them to grow fully overnight. He guessed they might be weeds that only looked like radishes, so he checked his encyclopedia. Since they were inside a dungeon, it was not unusual to discover plants that were unknown. While Joji studied them, Ohagi started playing with one of the leaves. The radish suddenly got angry and leapt out of the soil, shouting in rage. This startled the other 2 radishes, and they also woke up, leaving Joji and the others in shock. Joji could not believe the radishes were moving on their own. The furious radish silenced him with a kick to the face. Soon, the other radishes joined in and attacked Joji as well. Senzai then explained they were not normal radishes but mandrakes, a kind of monster that had grown from plant roots. He said they seemed to be upset about something. When Joji wondered what it was, the mandrakes slammed the ground and grabbed handfuls of soil. They tasted it but quickly spat it out in disgust. Joji was stunned. He realized the field that he and Kanton had worked so hard to prepare was useless. The mandrakes seemed to agree with him. Joji became angry and told the mandrakes to prepare the field on their own. Soon after, Ohagi Channel went live and Joji greeted the audience. The viewers already knew that a dungeon had grown in Joji's yard. Joji explained that the focus of this stream was about their radishes, which had shouted at them, so the plan was to improve the garden fields. To Joji's surprise, the mandrakes were eager to help and also wanted to be filmed. Suddenly, Kanton shifted shape, multiplied, and pulled the mandrakes along. The viewers grew excited as the mandrakes seemed to experience every man's dream. Kanton's clones transformed into robot-like bodies, and the mandrakes controlled them. They tilled the soil quickly, leaving Joji impressed. When Joji compared his own work to theirs, he finally understood the complaints. It did not take long for the mandrakes to finish the improved field. One viewer pointed out that mandrakes were skilled with earth magic, so it made sense they excelled in anything connected to soil. Next came fertilizers, and Joji brought out several sacks. He explained that the mandrakes had once scolded him for using random fertilizer, so this time he allowed them to decide. He presented it as the Mandrake's Choice Fertilizer Contest. The scene turned into something like a cooking show with expert judges. Some viewers doubted the fertilizers had any real differences, and others worried that the unchosen ones might not sell well after the stream. The first option caused the mandrakes to react with clear disgust. Skipping the contest, Joji and the others carefully mixed the mandrake's chosen fertilizer, and their field-making stream came to an end. He reminded the viewers to keep watching since they planned to film more content soon. Many viewers believed that vegetables grown under the mandrake's watch would taste wonderful, and they even asked Joji to make his dungeon open to the public. Later, Megumi and Senzai arrived carrying snacks. Megumi found it hard to believe that Joji had managed to tame mandrakes this time. Joji explained that they had formed a kind of connection during the earlier fieldwork, and he had even come up with names for them. From the right, they were called Scaredy, Captain, and Sleepyhead. Megumi could only give up on questioning Joji's unusual way of naming them. Soon after, the mandrakes began making loud noises. Joji explained that they were still unhappy with the fertilizer. He believed compost would work better since their long-term goal was to create a monster ranch. When ranches were mentioned, Megumi pointed out that raising cattle was usually the right match for such a place. Through a call, Joji then reached out to Cha-Cha to find out where he could learn about cow-type monsters. Cha-Cha explained that it might be difficult. She said there was a cow monster called Kaushika. Its horns, hide, meat, and milk could all be used without waste. Even its dung made good compost. Because of these many uses, Kaushikas were very valuable and rare. Most of them were owned by big companies, rich people, or even the state, often along with the whole dungeon. They were out of reach for normal people like Joji, and he realized it might be impossible for him to get one. Still, Cha-Cha remembered something that could help. She had an acquaintance who owned a dungeon with Kaushikas. She heard they were having trouble with them recently. If Joji could solve the problem, they might be willing to listen to his request. For now, she suggested learning more about the situation the next day. Joji thought about how rare a cow monster was and imagined the dungeon owner as a clever CEO like the ones shown in magazines. He reminded himself not to act rude. Together with Megumi, he prepared clean clothes and brought snacks, just in case. The next day, Joji arrived at a Western-style tavern that looked like the ones in cowboy movies. He wondered if they were really at the right place. Cha-Cha confirmed the appointment and told them to head inside. They entered the tavern, walked past the customers, and finally met the owner. The man said he had been waiting for a long time. He stood like a cowboy, leaning against the wall while holding his hat. He asked if Joji was the one who would solve his problem. Joji had not expected to meet someone with such a character. The group entered the dungeon. Joji saw a Kaushika in real life for the first time. The dungeon owner pointed to the largest one standing in the middle of the herd and said it was the cause of their problems. The day before, the owner had explained that one troublesome Kaushika was creating serious issues. He wanted Joji to handle it. This man was Nishiyama Kenta, the tavern master of Western, and also the dungeon manager. In his dungeon, they earned a living by collecting Kaushika horns and milk. When harvest time came, they used skilled explorers to gather the herd at a special facility inside the dungeon. But lately things had changed. A powerful Kaushika with a fierce temper had taken over as leader. It pushed the others to attack people. The explorers were forced back, which made proper harvesting impossible. Some suggested killing it, but Kenta refused to use harsh methods. If the herd was harmed, their yield would suffer. Cha-Cha reminded him about Joji. Kenta had heard of the hero who tamed a dragon and saved the monster park. Cha-Cha was certain Joji could handle the strong Kaushika. She even hinted that a new bond might form if things went well. Her gaze lingered on the two men, her imagination running wild. Joji suddenly felt an odd chill along his back. That was how they ended up inside Kenta's dungeon. Joji noticed how different dungeons had their own unique environments. Kenta repeated his request to deal with the troublesome Kaushika so harvesting could continue. Once Joji succeeded, he would be free to decide what to do with the beast. Joji accepted and suggested making the first move. Kenta agreed and brought out his trusted partner, a rock horse. He thought Joji would be riding his great wolf, which turned out to be spot on. Joji then asked Senzai and Kanten to help by changing form. Kanten shifted into a saddle with handlebars and a soft seat with back support. Somehow, Ohagi had some rider sunglasses. Kenta felt amazed since he had never seen a slime with such skill before and believed Joji's slime was a rare one. Joji also wondered if that was true. The two of them continued with the plan. Senzai and the rock horse rushed across the plains side by side. Kenta admired how Senzai managed to keep pace with his mount, yet when it came to running, that was the rock horse's true strength. The rock horse suddenly picked up speed and dashed forward. To Kenta's surprise, Senzai quickly closed the gap and even looked as if it was mocking the rock horse. The rock horse became fired up and grew serious. It sent all its strength into its legs and pounded the ground harder, almost shaking Kenta off. He tried to stop it, but the rock horse kept charging ahead. Joji carefully studied its movement and realized the rock horse was using the ground like a catapult to push itself faster. Senzai answered by forming a wind barrier that slowed the air around them and shielded Joji and the others from the rushing force. Meanwhile, Kenta held on tight, yelling as he felt like he was about to be thrown off. At last, the race ended, leaving Kenta sore and shaken. The rock horse seemed regretful for what happened. While they caught their breath, Joji spotted a herd of Kaushikas being attacked by monsters. A huge and muscular Kaushika struck back, knocking the attackers away with ease. Joji was amazed to witness such strength, watching it fight off the monsters alone. Kenta pointed out that the creature showed signs of leadership, because it managed to calm its restless companions with ease. He thought it was troublesome since it acted like an excellent boss. Joji wondered if there was a chance to work something out with it. At that moment, the Kaushika leader noticed their group and gave a harsh glare. Senzai stepped forward and told Joji to let him handle it. Joji felt as if he was watching a tense standoff between two rival bosses. Senzai spoke in a calm way, but the Kaushika leader grew more frustrated. In the end, Senzai lost control and became angry as well. Joji tried to ease him down, but Kenta already realized the talks had failed. Feeling worried, he suggested they retreat, eat something, and hold an emergency meeting. Joji agreed to the plan. Just then, an apple slipped out of Kenta's backpack and rolled onto the ground. A young Kaushika noticed it and took a bite. Its face lit up with joy as it discovered the fruit tasted good. It happily moved toward Joji as if asking for more. Before anything else, the Kaushika leader stomped its hooves between them and gave Joji a sharp glare. Kenta tried to ease the leader by offering more apples, while Joji explained that the fruit was worth trying. The leader glanced at the apple but turned away, showing no interest. The young Kaushika then followed after its leader. During their emergency meeting, Joji suggested using food to lure the monsters. He remembered how the young Kaushika had eagerly eaten the apple and also noticed that the Kaushika boss showed a little interest. Kenta agreed the idea could work, but he pointed out that the dungeon was nothing but wasteland, leaving almost no food for plant eaters. He admitted that a sweet fruit would be a rare treat, yet the plan would fail if they could not draw in the boss. The boss monster did not even spare the apple a second look. Joji realized they needed something unusual and special enough to capture the monster's attention. At that moment, Kenta remembered that Joji had recently tamed several mandrakes. These creatures were skilled with plants and could use magic to make them grow. Kenta thought they might be able to help, and Joji understood that food grown by mandrakes could actually work. Joji clasped his hands in front of the mandrakes and prayed for their power to make the best fertilizer for the wasteland and even build a pasture. To his surprise, the mandrakes agreed because they had been given bribes earlier. With their help, Joji believed they could grow strong vegetables that would impress the Kaushikas. At first, the mandrakes refused, saying they were too tired and unwilling to work. Their change in behavior made Joji wonder what kind of strange magic was happening. Soon the mandrakes went into the fields and started moving in circles. At first, Joji felt excited, but after a while he no longer understood what was going on. He realized the mandrakes' dance would continue all night. Joji decided to leave the dungeon and returned home where Megumi was still awake working on her video edits. He explained that the vegetables would not be ready soon and that he had to watch the mandrakes overnight. Megumi understood this meant they had no choice but to stay outdoors. She then prepared camping supplies. Joji thought about how she even had all the gear, and Megumi admitted she had been inspired by an anime about camping. She had bought a complete set long ago but never used it. Now it was finally the moment she could put it to use. Megumi eagerly asked what they should do first and mentioned many kinds of camping food they could cook. The mandrakes kept dancing while the bonfire glowed brightly at the camp. Megumi handed a cup of coffee to Joji. Kanton changed into a soft chair and Joji enjoyed his drink with gratitude. It felt peaceful to spend time camping outdoors without any electric lights. Sharing coffee with the sound of the fire in the background felt like the slow and quiet life Joji had long wanted. Morning soon arrived while the others were still asleep inside the tent. Joji stayed awake because of the endurance stream, forcing himself through a real all-nighter. He thanked everyone, especially the tired mandrakes, and promised that he would make the plan succeed. More importantly, he was worried about the vegetables, so he went to check the field and found a large amount ready to harvest. The fresh vegetables were quickly carried to Kenta's dungeon. The Kaushikas began drooling at the sight of them. Joji pointed out that they would surely be full of flavor since the mandrakes had grown them. He also said they would offer more like this if the Kaushikas agreed to work with them. The Kaushika leader tried to ignore the tempting vegetables. Kenta then stepped forward and told the Kaushika herd to stop attacking humans. He asked them to cooperate by allowing milk and horn harvesting, promising to supply them with food like this in exchange. He explained that food was important for the herd's growth and said it was a fair trade. The Kaushikas kept drooling, clearly tempted. At that moment, the young Kaushika from earlier approached the leader. Still drooling, it looked up with wide, pleading eyes. The Kaushika leader was torn and soon let out a loud roar. Senzai announced that the Kaushikas had agreed to cooperate. Joji celebrated with joy, and the Kaushikas immediately started eating the fresh vegetables with excitement. Several days later, Joji started another stream and greeted his viewers. He said many things had happened and that he had new friends to introduce. The viewers saw that the dungeon farm had grown bigger. When Joji mentioned farms, he brought up cows, and that was when he introduced the cow monsters called Kaushikas. The small one was named Cafe Olay. The viewers were amazed that Joji managed to tame them. Joji had formed a bond with the young Kaushika after a certain deal. This little one turned out to be the leader's child, and with the leader's approval, 5 Kaushikas came to live inside Ohagi dungeon. With more companions around, the place became more lively. Joji also learned how to make compost and could now get milk from the cow monsters. There were many things he could do from then on. He declared that the monster ranch was only beginning and promised to keep the viewers updated on its progress. Everyone looked forward to the updates and the stream came to an end. One of the viewers still could not believe that someone could earn money just by playing around and taking it easy. Somewhere else, a man tossed a bloodied baseball in his hand while hurting a cat nearby. He said that if someone wanted to go viral, monsters were the right way to do it now. He complained that their current videos were not good enough and insisted they needed to go more extreme. Just then, one of his friends found something online. It spoke about a mountain filled with mysteries where demons appeared. He suggested they check it out. The group agreed right away and already pictured themselves becoming famous streamers. They wanted to rise like Joji. The cat that had been left behind overheard them and whispered if they had really mentioned Joji. Soon after, Joji decided to start a casual stream and greeted the audience. He showed off his streaming overlays and explained that his junior, who was a VTuber, had made it for him. The viewers seemed impressed. He then told them to wait as he prepared a video to appear on the screen. An overlay then shifted into a live footage. Joji explained that this stream would show a live feed from the camera attached to Ohagi at the ranch. He reminded the audience that they had recently obtained Kaushikas during the last stream. Kanten and its clones were busy carrying buckets and piling them together. It turned out they had made compost successfully, and the mandrakes looked happy about it. He explained that the fermented compost did not smell and it was soft and warm. He shared how he looked forward to the next harvest. While Ohagi was filming Kanten working on the compost, a sudden loud sound came from Cafe Olé as it charged forward. Senzai quickly moved aside, making the smaller creature crash to the ground. Joji explained that Senzai was training Cafe Olé because its father, the Kaushika boss, had asked him to train his child. After they saw the state of the ranch, Joji said it was time to focus on the main matter. He wanted to know what everyone thought was missing from the ranch. The viewers understood that Joji was trying to set the next goal. Soon they began sending their suggestions, but most agreed that a barn should be built next. Joji accepted the idea since he was already thinking about building one and looking for contractors. However, the bigger issue was that they did not have enough people to handle the work. At that moment, Megumi's voice echoed from downstairs saying that something had gone wrong. Joji was startled, but the viewers were even more shocked to hear a girl's voice. They thought that the VTuber or Junior Joji had mentioned earlier was a girl. Because of the sudden panic, Joji chose to end the stream and told the viewers that a problem had come up. He went downstairs to find out why Megumi was shouting. A child then called out to Uncle Joji for help. The child explained that the kitten he was holding was dying. Joji felt relieved to see it was still breathing, so he quickly used healing magic. When he noticed the bruises on the kitten's body, he realized they were caused by accident. He asked if the cat belonged to the child, but the children explained they had only found it lying by the roadside on their way back from school. Megumi said she had heard rumors that the area had become a hangout for troublesome people, and she guessed that the cat's injuries were caused by them. The children believed Joji could use healing magic. They explained that they often watched Ohagi channel with their parents, so they thought Joji could help the cat. They gave their thanks after seeing the cat saved. Joji felt happy that they depended on him, though he asked them to call him Big Brother next time instead of Uncle. Megumi reminded him that for young children, all adults looked like uncles and aunties. When the children left, Megumi asked what they should do with the cat. She wondered if it might be lost and if someone was searching for it. Joji suggested that they try to find its owner first, since the cat was wearing clothes. If they could not find anyone, then they would take responsibility and keep it. Suddenly, a voice gave thanks for saving them. Joji and Megumi were confused because the voice did not belong to either of them. The cat then leapt from Joji's arms and gave thanks on its own. He introduced himself as Sable, a Kate Sith, and explained that he had come to meet Joji from the start. Joji was shocked to see a cat speak. At that moment, Sable lowered himself to the ground and begged humbly to save the Kate Siths. To settle things first, Joji decided to give Sable a bath. Sable apologized for troubling him and later offered him fine clothes. Joji was pleased that his old preschool clothes still fit Sable well. Before long, Ohagi returned from the dungeon with Senzai and Kanten. She stopped when she noticed Sable waiting on the porch. The Kate Sith apologized for intruding into their home. Soon after, Megumi called out that dinner was ready. During the meal, Joji asked the Kate Sith what he meant about his request about helping them. Sable then claimed their kind, the Kate Siths, were in big trouble in the dungeon where they lived. He claimed there were monsters called kobolds in the same dungeon. Some of them suddenly went violent and started attacking the Kate Siths and normal kobolds. The cause was completely unknown, and everyone wanted to find a cure to their aggression. What's worse, the number of aggressive kobolds were slowly increasing. AD and everyone in the dungeon were in a real pinch due to that. Upon hearing that, Joji asked if those monsters also had their physical strength increased, on top of becoming violent. Sable confirmed the affected monsters became powered up and became more muscular. Joji can only think this was caused by those slugs again. Sable assumed he knew something about it and asked for Joji's help to save his clan. Joji asked him to calm down first and reminded him to eat properly first and recover his strength. Sable then munched on the fried chicken and commented on how perfect the seasoning was. He hoped he could learn how to make them. Megumi was shocked he could cook. Sable explained many Kate Siths were quite dexterous and he was personally fond of cooking too. He even showed how he was good in using the chopsticks. Megumi then excitedly told him that Joji would solve all their problems and invited him to become one of them. Joji asked Megumi to wait. He angrily asked what she was doing and reminded her that they were an idol agency or something for her to scout casually like that. Megumi then angrily asked if Joji even understand how much work goes into meal preparation alone. She complained how she needed to do a lot of things to do for cooking alone. She complained how everyone eats so much that even a mountain of food weren't enough. She exclaimed at this rate she wouldn't have enough time for video editing. If she was his wife, she would be at the breaking point of running back home to her parents' house. The monsters got scared and hid behind Joji, who then started apologizing for putting too much burden on her. If the slugs were related to this matter, Joji can't ignore it. He then told everyone that they would help the Kate Siths. Sable was glad to hear that. And so, Joji asked where their dungeon was located. Sable claimed it was hidden in the mountains and pointed it on the map. Joji realized it would quite a trip, so suggested smart preparation. He claimed they must bring snacks for Ohagi and everyone. Sable asked what he was pulling off from the drawers. Joji claimed it was snacks that cats would like and suggested trying some. Sable didn't hesitate to try and suddenly froze. His voice trembled and bowed on the floor. He thanked the world tree for this blessings. Joji wondered if it was really that good. On the way, while riding Senzai's back, Joji asked if Sable came to their place by train. Sable confirmed sneaking inside the train while pretending to be regular cat. He claimed he was originally tasked by his clan to be in charge of investigating outside of the dungeon. As he investigated various places, he learned to speak human language. He claimed many humans were kind to cats, so he managed to get around and eat somehow. However, some of those humans were not nice at all. This made Joji realize that the serious injuries he had before were really caused by humans. Anyway, Sable proceeded to share how he heard rumors about Joji. They said there was a person who tamed many monsters and solved big incidents. However, he never expected that there would be a dragon, and somehow he gets a sacred feeling from Ohagi. Joji wondered if Sable was scared of Ohagi. They finally reached the destination. Joji asked once more if this was the right place. In front of them, as a gloomy and abandoned building, there were various signs and even the main gate was closed. Suddenly, an old woman warned them that the place was off limits. She asked if they also came to see the Oni. She complained how youngsters these days were trying to viral or something. Joji asked what she meant by Oni. The woman then shared the horror story about how the bloodthirsty Onis coming out from hiding when the night Hefdals and attack and devour outsiders. She told them to head back down the mountains if they valued their lives. Seeing how scared Joji was, Sable assured him not to worry since he never had seen any Oni in the area. He then led the way and they entered a part of the building. Feeling scared, Joji asked if they really had to pass through the place as it looked like something would suddenly come out to scare or attack them. Just then, Senzai confirmed that they were being watched. He told them something was in there and suggested being on guard. Joji asked him to stop joking around. Suddenly, someone came out and Joji screamed out of fear. 3 familiar men then appeared. They complained how it was only an old man making some noise. They thought it was the rumored Oni. Joji calmed down, realizing they were humans. One of the delinquents then somehow recognized Joji. He exclaimed this old man was Joji the streamer and they all started filming with their smartphones. They start vlogging and expressed surprise seeing a famous person in a rumored monster-infested place. Joji told them to stop filming. Sable then started trembling upon their sights. Joji asked what was wrong. Sable then claimed those were the same people who hurt him. Joji was shocked. The delinquents more shocked to see a cat talk. The leader exclaimed numbers mattered the most and they don't care if this would be a controversy as long as it goes viral. Joji then reasoned these people were shock value streamers and couldn't believe hurt a monster just for content. The leader claimed they were only meeting market demands and a legitimate strategy. That being said, being extreme doesn't stand out anymore and they thought the video of the cat being beaten up would get views. However, the leader pointed out that a talking cat was guaranteed to go viral. He told Joji to hand over the cat since it was a prey they found first. Joji warned them not to touch Sable. The delinquent then suggested a collab stream and it would be a win-win for them when they get the views. Joji was mad at the delinquent for saying whatever he wanted. He made it clear that he won't let them touch Sable and refused to collaborate with them. Sable cried, feeling touched. The leader of the delinquents then claimed he just thought up of a good video title. He suggested the title that goes, "Beating up a self-righteous, hypocritical famous streamer," and went for a punch. However, at that moment, a scary growl echoed through the building. The delinquents suddenly shit their pants, assuming it was the rumored demon. They couldn't believe the old woman was telling them the truth. Just like that, they ran away in fear. Joji then told the frozen Sable to get moving before the delinquents return. As they entered another area, a huge Bip-Deal monster appeared on the floor above and watched through a hole on the floor. Afterwards, Sable managed to calm down. Joji worriedly asked if he was really fine and suggested not pushing himself hard. Sable thanked him for the concern, but he assured him that they finally reached their dungeon. He then claimed the tree in front of them might look ordinary. However, it was disguised with magic. He touched the tree and invited them to get inside. Joji and the others soon found them in the middle of a thick jungle. Sable warned them that there were big roots and suggested watching their step. Just then, Joji stepped on something and his leg was caught in a rope trap, pulling him flying upward. At that moment, they were surrounded by dog-like creatures that stood on 2 legs, wore clothes, and carried weapons. Ohagi grew angry and got ready to release a dragon's breath while the creatures roared as if they were eager to fight. Before anything could happen, Sable stopped them and began speaking to the creatures in another language. Joji noticed that they were holding a real conversation, and he soon realized that these beings were not actually enemies. Sable kept doing his best to convince them to listen. Then one of the creatures stepped forward and cleared his throat. In broken human speech, he asked if Joji could truly save the kobolds. Joji and Ohagi were shocked to hear him speak. Sable explained that some kobolds were still able to talk and had not gone out of control. He also told Joji that he had just assured them Joji was a friend who wanted to help. Still, the talking kobold said they could not trust him. He pointed his spear at Joji and accused him of pretending to help while planning to use the Kate Siths for harm. Sable defended Joji, insisting he was not that kind of person. Joji then spoke about how he believed he knew the cause of the rampage and explained that many people close to him had been hurt because of it. He admitted that if the same thing happened again, he could not simply ignore it. He asked the kobold to give him a chance. To Joji's surprise, the kobold cut the rope that held him up. Joji thought he was about to die as he fell headfirst toward the ground, but Canton managed to catch him just in time. The talking kobold then warned that if trouble came, they would blame Sable and they would show no mercy to Joji or the Kate Siths. After the kobolds left, Sable apologized to Joji for their behavior. He asked Joji to forgive them since they were also desperate. The kobolds' family and friends had suddenly changed and attacked their own allies. Without knowing the cause, they feared they might be the next to lose control. Sable explained that the kobolds had been living with that fear while trying to find a solution. Joji thought it was natural for them to be cautious when a human suddenly appeared. He wished to know more of their story so he could understand the situation better. After some time walking, Sable said they had finally reached his village. He suggested meeting the elder first. Joji wondered if they had truly arrived since all he could see was endless trees. Even Ohagi looked around with curiosity. Then Sable told them to look upward, and there they saw houses built among the branches. He welcomed them to the village of the Kate Siths. Joji was amazed because he had never imagined a village could exist high in the trees. Sable explained that his people enjoyed climbing, and heights were never a problem for them. Kobolds, however, were different since they could not climb. Because of that, their village had not yet been attacked, and none of the Kate Siths had gone berserk. Joji now understood why Sable and his kin were still safe. The group finally reached the elder's home. Joji noticed how small the houses looked up close. An old Kate Sith welcomed Sable back, and Joji greeted the elder from the entrance since he could not fit inside. The elder spoke and Sable translated his words, saying that he welcomed Joji and thanked him for coming, while also promising cooperation in any way possible. Joji was uncertain if it was all true, since he had only heard a single word in their language. They had a discussion, but Joji realized they could not figure out the most important parts of the problem. The cause of the kobolds going wild was still unknown, and even the current location of these violent creatures was unclear. It seemed they had broken away from the main group with the little reasoning they still had. Normally, berserk kobolds did not attack each other, and that was one of the few things they had managed to understand. Sable pointed out that the number of those who went berserk already made up more than half of the total population. Since they had not seen them inside the dungeon, he believed the berserk kobolds must have gone outside. Joji then thought the ruins they had passed earlier looked suspicious, especially because they had heard growling noises there. If the slugs were the cause, then Joji and Ohagi might be able to deal with the problem. The trouble was that facing them one by one would take too much effort. They did not have enough magical power to keep using their skills, and Ohagi could only stay in giant form for a short time. They needed a way to handle all of them at once, but they lacked the right information. Joji believed they had no choice but to ask the kobolds directly, even though it would be difficult after seeing how cautious those kobolds were. Suddenly, the door burst open, and a Kate Sith rushed inside, crying as it tried to explain something to Sable. Joji grew worried, while Sable was shaken by what he heard. The report told of something terrible. Their allies guarding the dungeon entrance had seen a kobold child wander outside alone. They had tried to follow it, but the child had vanished from their sight. Without wasting time, Joji mounted Senzai. He needed to find the child quickly before anything bad happened, especially with berserk kobolds roaming outside. He could only hope the child was still safe. Sable said they had already sent word to the other kobolds. Joji then wondered if Senzai could track the missing child's scent. Inside the ruins, the kobold child cried in pain as its body ached with injuries. The delinquents nearby laughed, saying it was deserved for coming back. Since Joji was away, they thought they could gain attention by filming the suffering child. One of them even suggested a cruel video title calling it the public execution of a monster dog, and the group laughed at the idea. Their leader then ordered the kobold child to stand up, planning to force it to work much harder. Suddenly, a fiery beam shot past them, nearly striking. The attack came from Ohagi, and Joji appeared, demanding that they stop and move away from the kobold child. Sable rushed to the injured child and tried to comfort it, believing they had arrived just in time to help. Joji grew frustrated that these delinquents never learned and kept repeating the same foolish acts. The leader shouted back, claiming Joji was always interfering with them. His anger burned as he decided he no longer cared about filming or views. All he wanted was to beat Joji until he felt satisfied. Before he could finish declaring his intent to kill Joji, a massive and muscular kobold suddenly landed behind him. The delinquent froze in confusion as a heavy fist came flying toward him. The kobold struck hard and sent him crashing into the wall. Fear spread through the room as the remaining delinquents trembled, calling the creature a real demon. The kobold glared at them and released a terrible roar that shook the air. The others quickly lifted their fallen leader, desperate to escape. Sable recognized what they faced, knowing it was one of the feared berserk kobolds. Joji steadied himself and reminded his mind that the strange slugs might have triggered the rampage. He then cast his magic upon Ohagi and ordered her to advance. Obeying at once, Ohagi transformed, gathered powerful energy inside her mouth, and aimed it straight toward the raging kobold. Ohagi blasted her breath attack at the berserk kobold. It growled in pain. At the same time, a slug appeared on its forehead and squirmed as if it was suffering. Joji finally realized that his guess had been right. He pointed his hands at the kobold and tried to purify it. Just then, the young kobold ran toward the berserk kobold while crying. Joji wanted to stop the child because it was dangerous. To his surprise, the berserk kobold did not attack or hurt the child at all. The young kobold cried in front of it. The berserk kobold struggled to hold back its violent urges. In the end, it turned around and ran away without doing anything. Joji was confused. He wondered if the creature had simply escaped. Behind him, several kobolds watched the scene with sad faces. Sable did not know how to comfort the crying child. Soon after, the kobold leader led Joji's group to the entrance of their village. Joji had not expected the kobolds to live inside a cave. Along the way, Sable explained that kobolds were skilled at digging and expanding natural caves to create their homes. Joji was surprised when they entered. The cave was brighter than he expected because of the glowing magic stones placed around it. It was also much larger and more spacious than he had imagined. The group stopped at an area where hay was spread across the ground. The kobold leader invited them to sit down. He first thanked them for saving one of his people. Joji brushed it off and said he was only happy that everyone was safe. The kobold leader then introduced himself properly as the leader of the Kuchin clan. He explained that he had decided to trust humans once again. He asked Joji and his group to help his people. After that, he asked if the power of the dragon Joji used earlier could save the kobolds who had gone berserk. Joji answered that Ohagi's power should be enough. He believed the kobold they met earlier only needed a little more help to return to normal. As he thought back to the earlier scene, Joji became curious. He wondered why the young kobold had approached the berserk kobold, and why the child had gone outside the dungeon alone. The kobold leader hesitated to answer. Seeing this, Zenzai explained that the two were parent and child. The berserk kobold had been the young kobold's father. Sable added that the child kept begging for his father to wake up. Hearing that, Joji finally understood everything. The kobold leader lowered his head and explained that it was not only that family suffering. Many of their comrades had gone berserk. All over the village, families cried as they waited for loved ones who never returned home. The kobolds wanted to save them as quickly as possible, but they could not do it on their own. So the leader asked for Joji's help. Joji accepted without hesitation. He thanked the kobold leader for trusting them and promised that his group would do everything they could to save the kobolds. Joji asked if all the berserk kobolds were only inside those ruins. The kobold leader replied that they probably were, since every sighting had come from that place. However, he confirmed that the berserk kobolds hid all over the area. No one knew their exact locations inside the ruins or in the surrounding forest. Joji understood the situation. He explained that the technique used to remove the berserk state was difficult to use many times in a row. Even if they succeeded with the first few kobolds, the others might become cautious and avoid them. He wondered if there was a way to gather all the berserk kobolds in one place. The kobold leader thought that would be difficult. The berserk kobolds moved around on their own instead of staying together. Joji then wondered if there was some kind of bait that could lure them in. At that moment, Ohagi tugged on Joji's sleeve. He quickly apologized after realizing it was time for her dinner. He asked her to wait a little longer since he had brought some snacks with him. Sable immediately became excited, thinking it was the same delicious treats he had eaten before. The kobold leader suddenly caught the smell of the snacks Joji had brought. Curious, he asked what gave off such a delicious scent. Joji offered him some, explaining that he had brought snacks for dogs as well. Sable quickly warned the kobold leader to prepare himself because the taste was so good that he might faint. The kobold leader found that hard to believe. Still, he accepted one of the snacks and took a bite. The moment he tasted it, his eyes widened. He slowly savored the flavor and praised how delicious it was. He said his brain felt numb and his whole body trembled with joy. He could not believe that something this tasty existed. He even claimed that if people ever discovered these snacks, they would fight over them. Sable agreed at once. Trembling with excitement and drooling, he declared that he would gladly give up everything just to keep eating them. Joji stared at the snack in his hand. He had not expected such an extreme reaction and began to wonder if he should try one himself. Meanwhile, the kobold leader kept staring at the remaining snacks. As he imagined everyone fighting over them, a thought suddenly came to him. He declared that this was the answer to their problem. Calling the treats a divine gift, he excitedly claimed they could save the berserk kobolds with them. Joji was left confused. He wondered if it was really possible to save the kobolds using nothing more than dog treats. Soon after, Joji finished unpacking the last few boxes. Not long after, Sable and the others returned after finishing their own task. As Joji neatly stacked the empty boxes, he welcomed them back. He then thought about the plan to save the berserk kobolds using the dog treats. Everything was ready, and he hoped the operation would succeed. The kobold leader told him that they would begin the mission the next day and suggested that he stay for the night. Joji was confused at first. Since he had been inside the cave the whole time, he had not noticed that evening was already approaching. He hoped the kobolds would not mind having him stay. Soon after, the kobold leader announced that it was time for a feast. Joji blinked in surprise. He had not expected a celebration before such an important operation. The Kate Siths quickly got busy preparing food. After a while, Sable stepped onto a platform and looked at the crowd. He praised everyone for their hard work and spoke about how their days of fearing the mysterious violent outbursts would soon come to an end. He declared that the Kate Siths and kobolds would fight together to take back their peace and save their friends. Joji sat among his monster companions and listened with admiration. Sable then called for everyone to celebrate the success of the operation that awaited them. Cheers filled the cave as the feast began. Music echoed through the air while kobolds and Kate Siths danced around a large bonfire. The mood was lively, and for the first time in a long while, everyone seemed hopeful. A Kate Sith soon brought some food to Joji. He thanked them and happily ate the meal. The food tasted great, and even Ohagi enjoyed every bite. Joji remembered hearing that Kate Siths were skilled at cooking and other tasks that required careful hands. The kobolds, on the other hand, used their strength and stamina for heavy work. Watching everyone work together, he could see that each race had found the role that suited them best. While Joji was eating, Sable and the kobold leader came over to check on him. They asked if he enjoyed the food. Joji happily said it was his first time joining a feast shared by the Kate Siths and the kobolds, and he was having a great time. Joji was surprised when he learned that this was also the first feast the two races had shared together. The kobold leader explained that even though they lived in the same area, Kate Siths and kobolds were different species. Because of that, they had always kept some distance from each other. Sable said things were different now. They had joined forces to face a common problem and had become comrades. He promised that the operation the next day would succeed. After that, he hoped the two races could continue building a good relationship. The kobold leader agreed and raised a toast. Joji thought the two races could overcome this difficult situation and grow even closer. Still, something else worried him. He could not stop thinking about the troublesome streamers. Earlier, they had run away in fear after seeing the berserk kobolds. But now that they knew about Sable and the others, would they really keep quiet? If they sold the information to a television station, the Kate Siths and kobolds could be exposed to the public. People might start searching for them. In the worst case, they could even be captured. That thought reminded Joji of his former company president. The man had once told him to hand over his dragon so she could be used to make money. Remembering that made him worry even more. He wondered if there was anything he could do to protect his new friends. Just then, Joji noticed Sable had passed out after only a few drinks. The drunken cat lay on the ground with his fluffy and round belly sticking out. Joji found it impossible to ignore. He reached out and tried to rub the soft fur. Seeing Joji grinning and getting carried away, Ohagi quickly pounced on him. Later, inside the ruins, a group of unlucky mice suddenly became prey. A crazed kobold had appeared. He was starving and wanted meat, but there was not enough to satisfy him. Then he caught a smell. It was rich and delicious, coming from a piece of meat nearby. He rushed toward it and took a bite. The taste was so good that he could not stop eating. Soon, another strong smell drifted from a different spot. He wanted that one too and did not want to share it with anyone. But other crazed kobolds soon arrived. They all rushed toward the tasty meat and ate as if it were the last meal of their lives. As the berserk kobolds gathered in one place, Sable gave the signal. Canton quickly expanded his body and slammed into the kobolds, pinning them to the ground. Kuchin was happy that the plan had worked. Sable explained that the kobolds had fallen for their trap. They had used highly addictive dog treats as bait. First, they prepared a large number of the treats and coated many pieces of meat with them. Then, they scattered the meat throughout the ruins where the berserk kobolds usually hid. The smell and taste were impossible for the monsters to resist. They kept looking for more, wanting second and third servings. Finally, the group placed a huge pile of meat in one spot. Once all the kobolds had gathered there, it was Joji and Ohagi's turn. Joji rode on Ohagi's transformed back as they charged forward with all their strength. Ohagi unleashed her breath attack at the trapped kobolds. For some reason, the monsters suddenly felt warm. The slugs attached to their foreheads slowly crumbled into dust. At that moment, the kobolds came back to their senses. They realized they could finally return home. Seeing that the kobolds were no longer berserk, everyone cheered with joy. Their plan had finally succeeded. Kuchin counted the kobolds and made sure everyone was there. Joji felt relieved that everything had finally settled down. Now, everyone could go back to their families. The kobold child finally reunited with its father, and the sight warmed everyone's hearts. Just then, angry voices came from nearby. The streamers returned, this time with several police officers. They demanded that the officers get rid of the violent monsters that had attacked them. Joji could not believe they dared to come back. Then he noticed that the police officers were people he knew. They quickly recognized Joji and Ohagi as well. Both Joji and Ohagi were surprised to see them again. The policewoman was especially excited because she was Ohagi's biggest fan. Joji thanked them for the help they had given before. The streamers grew impatient and demanded to know what everyone was talking about. They insisted that the officers kill the monsters that had injured innocent people. The policeman frowned and said that the story sounded very different from what he had been told. He asked where the large and dangerous dog monsters were supposed to be. All he could see were harmless and fluffy puppies. The streamers argued that they were still monsters. The policeman admitted that there were rules about getting rid of wild monsters. Joji quickly asked them to wait. He turned to Sable and Kuchin and asked if they would be willing to stay at his home. He admitted that his house might be a little cramped, but he needed their help. Sable and Kuchin agreed without hesitation. The other kobolds were happy to come along as well. Joji then looked at the policeman and nervously asked if that arrangement would be acceptable. The policeman nodded. Once the monsters had an owner, they would no longer be treated as wild creatures that needed to be eliminated. Even if the story about the attack was true, it had happened before they were tamed. The streamers became furious. They claimed that their lives had been in danger. Joji firmly explained that the streamers had attacked the kobold children first. The policeman was shocked when he heard that. Without wasting another moment, he and his partner grabbed the streamers and took them into custody. They explained that ordinary citizens who were not explorers were not allowed to hunt monsters. As they looked more closely, they realized these men were the troublesome streamers they had been receiving complaints about for a long time. The officers dragged the noisy group away and promised to have a long talk with them at the station. Before leaving, they waved goodbye to Joji and Ohagi. They even wished them luck with their future streams. Joji watched them leave and wondered if this was truly the end of the whole incident. Beside him, Sable and the kobold child happily watched as the troublesome streamers disappeared from sight. On the way home, Joji started streaming from the back of a truck. The viewers were surprised when they saw new monsters with him. After a long trip, they finally reached their destination. The viewers were shocked to see fluffy, cat-like and dog-like monsters. Joji remembered to thank Nishiyuma for giving them a ride in his truck. He also apologized for the sudden request. The cowboy said that Joji's Mandrake brand vegetables would be enough as payment. Megumi was surprised by the new arrivals. She could not believe she was seeing so many furry creatures at once. While panting, she asked if it would be bad to rush in and hug them. Joji warned Megumi that the camera was on and that her actions could cause controversy. Joji then guided everyone to his personal dungeon. Sable said it felt wide and comfortable. Joji said it was not actually as big as it looked. With many friends around, Joji said they could start doing many different things. He planned to build homes for everyone first and then work on the barn he had discussed with the viewers earlier. The viewers could see that the place was slowly turning into a village. Joji said the Ohagi ranch would continue to grow. Soon after, he noticed the Kate Siths moving past the markers he had placed. This confused him. But he also realized that the dungeon was expanding. Somewhere else, a man was clapping while watching Joji's stream. He was happy with how impressive it had become. He enjoyed it very much this time. Not only had Joji fixed the berserk state, but he had also tamed the monsters. The man said Joji had exceeded his expectations. He looked forward to what would happen next. Behind him were glass tanks filled with slugs. Another peaceful day had come. and Joji's tamed monsters were seriously watching a TV show about a famous hot spring inn. Everyone was relaxing in the living room. Joji was sleeping on Zenzai's fluffy tail, while Megumi folded laundry. Zenzai and Ohagi looked excited while watching a customer enjoy a warm outdoor bath and drinks. Seeing how happy the customer was, Zenzai could not hold back his feelings. He barked and slammed his paw on the floor, demanding a hot spring bath. The impact was so strong that everyone bounced slightly off the floor. The huge wolf asked Joji to build a hot spring for him. Joji told him to calm down. Megumi could see that the TV show had triggered Zenzai's desire for a bath. Thinking about it, Joji realized he should do something about it soon. Zenzai loved baths, but his size made it impossible to use the small tub in Joji's place. He sometimes used large monster bath facilities, but those did not satisfy him. He could shrink his body with magic, but he preferred bathing in his original form so he could fully stretch out. At that moment, Sable came out of the bath and thanked Joji for letting them use it. Joji told him there was cold milk in the fridge. Sable then called the next group to take their turn. A group of Kate Siths and kobolds went to the bath. Joji apologized for making everyone take turns in such a cramped space. Sable said they were still grateful to be able to use it. Joji noticed that the larger ones could not fit properly, and hoped they could build a bigger bath where everyone could go together. He wanted his hard-working companions to at least enjoy proper rest, since employee comfort was important. However, Megumi reminded him about their high utility bills. Joji checked the bills and was shocked. He then decided that they would build a large public bath. His tamed monsters celebrated at the idea. Megumi quietly worried about how difficult it was to support such a large household. She also noted that if their streaming income dropped, they would be in serious trouble. Everyone worked hard to prepare everything. Megumi handed in a list of monsters that could help with building the bath. Joji suggested holding a strategy meeting with everyone based on the list. Meanwhile, Ohagi Ranch kept developing so well that it had turned into a proper village. Kate Siths and kobolds became the first residents. Megumi noticed that there were more buildings compared to her last visit. Sable explained that kobolds handled the heavy work while Kate Siths focused on design and decorations. Because everyone shared tasks and worked together, the construction moved forward quickly. After that, a Kate Sith called them over. Sable checked on their progress. A Kate Sith and a kobold reported that their new videos had brought in more subscribers. Sable had started a streaming channel called Cat Sable Channel. In one of the latest videos, he interrupted a neighborhood cat meeting, offered cat treats, and quickly got surrounded by cats. The video gained many views in a short time. Joji was surprised to see the channel ranking high, and only then learned that Sable had started it. Sable said having more ways to earn money was better, and mentioned that he learned streaming and video editing from Megumi. Megumi adjusted her glasses and believed that cute and fluffy content always worked well. She hoped the channel would become one of the top ones. Sable agreed and aimed to lead in fluffy content. Joji noticed that the two of them got along very well. Nearby, Joji heard loud barking. Shin was sparring with several kobolds and Kate Siths using wooden swords and easily defeated them. He kept taking down the remaining enemies, but he did not notice a sword already aimed at his neck. Hanzo stopped him and warned him that focusing only on enemies in front would leave him open from behind. Joji thanked Hanzo for guiding them again that day. He saw that everyone had improved. Hanzo agreed and said everyone learned quickly, which made teaching feel rewarding. He admitted that he had been worried when Joji first asked him to train monsters for combat. However, he realized that they had strong intelligence and physical ability, and they took the training seriously. Hanzo then told Joji that the monsters could fight alongside regular explorers if they were brought into dungeons. Joji was glad to hear this. He could now assign a group to gather food from dungeons, which would help solve their food shortage problem. Even Megumi felt pleased. Hanzo also realized that their household food costs were likely high since they had not started dungeon hunting yet. After that, Joji talked with Hanzo about building a large public bath. Hanzo agreed that it was a good idea so everyone could clean up after training. Joji said he wanted to find someone skilled in building baths. He also thought this was a good opportunity to introduce the Kate Siths and kobolds as explorers. Hanzo agreed and suggested forming a party of 4. He chose Kuchin as the leader and main tank. Stalin, another kobold, was assigned as a fast attacker. Parfait, a Kate Sith, was set as a long-range fighter who used a bow. He then introduced his best disciple, pointing to Joji. Joji was surprised because he did not remember ever becoming Hanzo's disciple. Megumi told Joji to look up. A black Kate Sith had been sleeping on top of his head the entire time, and he had not noticed it. Hanzo introduced the Kate Sith as Eclair, their scout. Megumi wondered if someone that small and unmotivated would be useful outside. Eclair quickly jumped onto her head, then landed on a nearby stick, moving with quick and smooth motions like a ninja. Hanzo assured the group that Eclair was still capable even without motivation. Joji still saw it as a serious issue, but believed the group could work well together. Hanzo then called Megumi and looked over the monster list she had prepared. After checking it again, he confirmed that all the monsters lived in volcanic areas. Volcanic dungeons were very dangerous places. They had lava, falling rocks, ash in the air, unstable ground, and extreme heat. They were also considered high-difficulty areas. The dungeon where their first target lived was even more dangerous than the others. Even with Ohagi and the rest of the group, Hanzo still felt uneasy about it. Joji wondered if the place was really that dangerous. Hanzo explained that he could join them, but he would soon leave for another guild mission and did not know when he would return. He felt they needed another experienced explorer to join them. Joji thought about whether they could find someone or use a recruitment notice. At that moment, Joji received a message on social media from someone who liked his videos. Megumi noticed something was wrong and asked about it. Joji said it was a message from social media. After reading it, it seemed like a real fan message. Megumi thought it might be spam or a prank. However, they were shocked when they learned who sent it and reacted strongly. A few days later, Joji and the group arrived at a train station. Joji taught them how to load money onto train cards and use ticket machines. Kuchin had trouble because of poor eyesight and asked Eclair for help. Eclair jumped onto Kuchin's head and gave him instructions. The kobold was finally able to get his train card. After that, Joji taught them how to tap the card and pass through the ticket gate. He also told them to make sure to board the explorer's car, which ran at a specific time. It was a special car made for passengers with large weapons and those traveling with tamed monsters. Kuchin thought it was safe for them to ride there. Joji said it was good that the train had separate cars so they did not need to worry about bothering other passengers. However, he had only learned about this a short while ago. Suddenly, people began to recognize Joji and his tamed monsters. Joji looked behind him to see what was causing the commotion. The children were excited to see the fluffy cats, dogs, and even the slime. The adults were more excited about Ohagi. Everyone rushed toward Joji's group while calling out Ohagi's name. Joji panicked because they were in the middle of the platform. At that moment, Ohagi and Kanton stepped forward. Kanton lifted Ohagi and threw her into the air. Ohagi landed back on him and struck a cute pose. Everyone thought she was adorable and stopped moving. Joji was impressed. Ohagi then guided the crowd to the side so they would not block the walkway. She gave too much fan service. Joji felt moved seeing her become so considerate. The others could not believe he was acting like an overly doting father. Suddenly, Joji noticed Sable making sales. He quickly set up a small stall to sell Ohagi's merchandise, including different acrylic stands and badges. He even gave away some of his cute photos as extra items. Joji got angry and walked over to Sable. He told him to return to the ranch before he caused more trouble. Ohagi, who was busy with a fan meeting, wondered what was going on. After a while, Joji's group finally arrived at their destination. He checked the message about the collaboration. The fan said they had already cleared the volcanic region dungeon several times and offered to join them. Because of this, they agreed to meet in front of the dungeon entrance. However, when Joji arrived, no one was there. Joji started to feel nervous as he kept staring at his phone. He wondered if the person would really show up. He also began to worry that someone might be pretending to be them and playing a prank. At that moment, someone came out of the locker room and apologized for making them wait. She said it took some time to change. She also said it was a pleasure to meet Joji, and thanked him for accepting the collaboration stream request. Joji could not believe it was really Ryan in person. Ryan was the same streamer who once solo speedran the subjugation of a boss monster. She was a dungeon streamer with 4 million subscribers and was popular enough to appear on television and advertisements. Megumi could hardly believe that such a famous person had reached out for a collaboration. Thinking back on it, Joji remembered that Ryan had helped spread the word about Ohagi from the very beginning. Megumi excitedly revealed that she was a huge fan of Ryan. Hanzo added that Ryan was one of the top explorers. Having her join them would make things safer, and he believed he could learn a lot from her. Megumi urged Joji to accept the offer immediately. Joji never expected such a perfect opportunity to come his way. He accepted the request and admitted that appearing on a stream with a beautiful woman made him nervous. For some reason, his comment annoyed Megumi. She pushed her finger against his face and reminded him that they were dealing with an extremely famous person. She warned him not to look at Ryan with inappropriate thoughts or it could turn into a major controversy. Joji promised he would remember that. Before he left, Megumi and Hanzo asked him to get Ryan's autograph for them. On the day of the collaboration, Ryan happily said she was glad to finally meet Ohagi. She found Ohagi's round eyes and tiny paws adorable. She was also excited to meet Kanton and the other new monsters. Joji felt nervous, but he was relieved that Ryan seemed more interested in his tamed monsters than in him. He thought he would be able to handle the situation as long as she did not pay much attention to him. However, he was caught off guard when Ryan suddenly asked for a handshake. She expressed how happy she was to finally meet Joji in person. She explained that he had become a hot topic among explorers because of his ability to tame all kinds of monsters. She said she was glad to meet him too. The two exchanged greetings. As she held his hand, she hoped they would have a long and good relationship. Joji became flustered and could not find the words to respond. After the introductions, Ryan suggested that they get moving. She asked Joji if he had prepared the item she mentioned earlier, and he confirmed that he had. Ryan warned everyone that the volcanic region was filled with dangers. She reminded them to stay careful and avoid getting burned. The group entered the dungeon through the crystal tree. Within seconds, Joji and the others felt dizzy because of the intense heat around them. Parfait worried that she would end up as a roasted cat. Canton slowly started melting, while Stolen complained that his nose could barely handle the heat anymore. Even Joji struggled to stay focused as the scorching air drained his energy. As expected of a dragon, Ohagi looked completely fine. Seeing that everyone was close to suffering from heat stroke, Ryan told Joji to bring out the item she had prepared. Joji sprayed a cooling mist over everyone. Tiny ice particles formed a thin layer around their bodies, and the unbearable heat quickly faded away. Feeling much better, the group prepared to continue their journey. Ryan explained that the spray was a cooling agent made especially for explorers. It was created using snowgrass and the scales of icicle lizards. She assured everyone that its effect would last for several hours. Joji felt pleasantly warm and no longer struggled with the heat. Now that they were fully prepared, it was finally time to start the stream. Joji and Ohagi opened the stream and greeted their viewers. Behind them was the vast volcanic region, glowing with heat and lava. Joji explained that, because of several reasons, he wanted to build a large public bath at the ranch. To make that happen, they came to search for a monster that could help them create the bath. He also revealed that they had invited a long-awaited collaboration partner. Ryan stepped forward and greeted the viewers with a cheerful smile. The chat exploded with excitement, leaving Joji surprised by their reaction. Ryan thanked everyone for the warm welcome and shared how happy she was to finally meet Ohagi and the others. She also announced that she planned to hold a casual chatting stream with them later on her own channel. The viewers were thrilled and promised they would not miss it. After letting everyone enjoy the moment, Joji reminded Ryan that it was time to continue their adventure. As they moved forward, Joji explained that their target was a monster called Volgira. Ryan said she had heard about it before and agreed it would be perfect for making a bath. Joji explained that Volgira was a whale-like monster that swam through the skies. It used to be very rare and was once close to extinction, but seeing one was no longer unusual these days. The creature stored magma inside its body and spewed lava from the volcanic vent on its dorsal fin. Ryan described it as a moving volcano dancing across the sky. It had an oval body, similar to a submarine, along with a large volcanic dorsal fin. Joji wanted to ask why its numbers had changed so much over the years, but Ryan quickly stopped him. She sensed that monsters were approaching. A group of monsters rushed toward them. Joji became excited because he wanted to show the results of everyone's training. Before anyone could act, Ryan casually flicked her fingers. Lightning crashed down and struck every monster at once. Joji stood frozen in shock. Ryan then realized she had taken away everyone's chance to prove themselves. Joji broke into a cold sweat but assured himself that it was not a big problem. Just then, Parfait pointed out that something felt wrong. Kuchin noticed that the monsters were acting strangely and seemed unusually restless. Ryan admitted that she might have attacked out of habit, but she knew these monsters were normally gentle. It looked more like they were running away from something. At that moment, a loud roar echoed through the valley. The sound was so powerful that the ground shook beneath their feet. Joji and the others quickly looked up at the sky. A Volgira flew overhead. Moments later, lava rocks burst from its dorsal fin and rained down toward them. Ryan quickly pulled Joji into her arms and dodged the falling rocks. However, she failed to notice one flying straight at them. Joji immediately cast a barrier and blocked the attack. Ryan felt relieved and thanked him silently for saving her. Joji was happy that his training had finally paid off. Ryan then realized that the monsters they had defeated earlier had actually been fleeing from the Volgira. However, Joji noticed something strange. The Volgira looked furious for some reason. Kuchin told them to look ahead. They saw a crying baby Volgira inside a cage placed on top of a robot. This shocked Joji and the others. There were two robots. One of the operators was shocked to see a larger Volgira chasing after them. The other said the baby kept crying and screaming, which caused the situation. Sable listened to the baby's cries and confirmed that the two Volgiras were a parent and its child. This made Joji understand that the parent was angry because its child had been taken. Even so, he wondered who the robot operators were. He could not believe they had entered the dungeon using robots and captured a monster. Meanwhile, Ryan had just finished contacting someone to track the men so they would not lose them. She moved forward quickly and told Joji to chase after them. She said those people were poachers. She reminded him that she had mentioned before how the number of Volgiras had been dropping. The reason was that jewels could be taken from them. Because of the mix of lava and the monster's internal fluids, red glowing jewels formed inside their bodies. Many collectors wanted these jewels. Younger Volgiras had lower body temperatures, which made it easier to extract the jewels from them. Because of this, many Volgiras were hunted. In the past, this kind of poaching damaged the ecosystem, so taking juveniles or separating parent and child pairs was strictly forbidden. Now that Ryan mentioned it again, Joji remembered seeing warning signs at the dungeon entrance. Still, he did not expect the poachers to act so boldly. Ryan was also confused. She had checked with the reception and the guild, and no capture permits had been issued. There were also no records of a large robot entering or leaving. She could not understand how the poachers managed to get inside using those robots. Just then, Joji noticed something. The angry parent Volgira moved closer to the poachers and charged straight at them. The poachers tried to fight back. One of them swung the robot's arm to throw a punch, but the Volgira easily dodged it. Joji was surprised when he saw this. Ryan called the poacher's piloting skill amateur. However, the robot arm that had missed suddenly began to move strangely. Joji noticed it right away. The arm turned back and hit the parent Volgira with a punch. The poacher looked confused and asked why it had suddenly hit. The other poacher told him to stop being distracted and to run away. The baby Volgira cried for its parent. The poacher made it quiet using the paralyzing tail of his scorpion robot. After that, the poachers tried to escape. Ryan and Eclair jumped off the cliff to chase them. They told Joji that they would follow the poachers. Ryan asked Joji to take care of the Volgira. Joji and the others went to the injured Volgira. He saw that the wound was not deep and that he could heal it quickly. While Joji healed the monster, the Volgira woke up and asked them to save her son. Kuchin translated her words. Joji promised her that everything would be fine. He told her that his friends were chasing her son and would surely save him, and he asked her to stay strong. While healing the monster, Joji checked the livestream comments. The viewers were also reporting what was happening, and he thought the authorities would arrive soon. Suddenly, he saw repeated comments asking how the poachers entered the dungeon. Some viewers believed there might be another entrance, but most said dungeons only had one entrance. Even Ryan, who checked with the reception and the guild, did not know how such large robots entered the dungeon. Joji wondered who those people were. Meanwhile, someone became angry after seeing the two poachers trending on a live stream. He could not believe that even the police had been informed. A girl watched him from behind. He did not expect that two streamers at the height of their popularity were involved. However, he realized this might be his opportunity for something. People outside the dungeon became interested in what was happening in the live stream. They also learned that the situation had already reached the news. They thought the poachers did not expect to be recorded live and called them foolish. At the same time, a hooded man sitting in the driver's seat of a truck was shaking as he watched the live stream on his phone. He felt angry and wondered how things had turned out like that. Back inside the dungeon, Joji finished healing the whale monster and checked on how she felt. The mother Volgira groaned for a moment, then suddenly rose into the sky. She happily said that she no longer felt pain, and Kuchin translated this for Joji. Joji felt relieved, but he still planned to have Dr. Kawazu examine her properly later. He also worried about Ryan and Eclair. Since the poachers were running away from the entrance, he assumed there was another way out of the dungeon. Soon after, Parfait called out to him. She and Stalin had spoken with the mother of Volgira. If her son were saved, she would help with the hot spring project. Joji was happy to hear this and said it would be a big help. Joji's phone then rang. It was Ryan. She and Eclair were hiding and confirmed that the poachers had stopped moving and were acting suspiciously. She asked Joji and the others to come and help them. Joji agreed and told everyone to move out. Since Eclair had a jeep's tag, they were able to track their location. Joji then asked the mother Volgira to follow from a distance because of her large size. She agreed. He told the livestream viewers that he had only come to find a new friend but did not expect things to become serious. He said he would rescue the child and hoped to become true friends with the Volgira. The viewers did not expect to see a crime happening during a live stream. Chin wondered if the men were simply trying to recruit the Volgiras. Joji explained that it was forbidden to touch Volgiras that had children. He also said that taming them or taking them home was against the rules. Kuchin found human rules difficult to understand. They soon found Ryan and Eclair still hiding. The black cat quietly signaled them using its paw. As Joji and the others regrouped, they overheard the poachers speaking angrily. One of them asked how they could not be picked up when they were already at the extraction point. They also realized that they were being live-streamed and that the police were already waiting outside. From their conversation, Joji concluded that there were more accomplices involved. Ryan also confirmed that the men had already noticed the stream. Joji then wondered if the extraction point they mentioned was connected to the pole at the back. Ryan said it would only be a matter of time before the poachers noticed them. Joji agreed. Ryan quickly moved into action, and her sudden entrance surprised the poachers. She told them she would make things hurt a little. One of the poachers turned out to be a fan of Ryan and started acting excited. Another poacher realized that Ryan and the others were the ones streaming. At that moment, an arrow landed in front of the bipedal robot. Kuchin, Stalin, and Parfait got ready to fight. The Ryan fan realized they were surrounded. The other poacher became afraid when he saw the Kate Siths and kobolds. They reminded him of childhood pets, which made him panic and cry. He could not bring himself to fight, so he ran away while the Kate Siths and kobolds chased after him. The poacher controlling the scorpion robot asked what was happening and decided to use his last option. He flipped a switch, and small round robots with 8 legs came out of the scorpion robot's mouth. Parfait was scared by the insect-like robots. and Kuchin also struggled to handle the situation. Joji became worried for them. Ryan then quickly cut down the small robots with precise strikes. She told them to leave the smaller enemies to her. Joji then decided to act as well and told Ohagi that it was their turn. Ohagi shone bright, gathering power. She then transformed into her giant form. The sudden change shocked the poachers. Ohagi fired a breath attack, but the shot missed when the poacher controlling the robot quickly made it duck. Kuchin became worried, but Joji said everything was fine because they had aimed at something else. The breath attack curved through the air and smashed the cage holding the baby Volgira. The little creature cried as it fell helplessly, but Kantan rushed forward and caught it just in time. The poachers became furious and demanded that they return the baby Volgira. Before anyone could react, the mother Volgira appeared. Her fierce glare alone was enough to make everyone freeze. She growled in anger as smoke rose from her dorsal fin. Even Joji realized the situation had become dangerous when he saw how angry the mother was. Ryan quickly told everyone to retreat. A moment later, the mother Volgira exploded with rage. Burning magma rocks shot from her dorsal fin and rained down across the area. The poachers could do nothing except watch as the robots they rode were crushed by the blazing rocks. The destruction that followed shocked even the viewers, though many felt the poachers deserved it. What surprised them even more was that the poachers somehow survived the fiery attack. Joji noticed they were still young, so he turned on the face filter. Ryan then stood before the tied-up poachers and demanded to know everything. With Ohagi stickers covering their faces, the poachers admitted they were only part-time workers who had been hired through social media. They insisted they had only followed instructions. Joji guessed it was another shady online job that tricked people into doing dangerous things. Suddenly, one of the poachers' phones rang. Ryan grabbed it and showed the screen to Joji. The caller was clearly the person who hired the poachers. The poachers quickly admitted that the caller was the one who ordered them to hunt illegally. Ryan thought the timing was perfect and guessed that the employer had been watching the live stream. Joji wondered why someone involved in a crime would act so openly. Even so, he accepted the call. As soon as Joji answered, loud laughter burst from the phone. The caller proudly introduced himself as the evil genius mastermind, the great Dr. Kibiak. Joji and the others froze in shock. The phone was not even on speaker mode, yet everyone could hear the voice clearly. Joji had no idea how that was possible and could not find any words to say. The viewers watching the stream were just as confused and surprised. Kibiak laughed at their reaction. He said it was only natural for people to be speechless after hearing his noble and impressive voice. He boasted that they were probably so scared their legs were about to give out. Ryan, feeling awkward, told him that prank calls were not funny. Kibiak quickly denied it. He warned them that they would regret mocking him. He proudly declared that he was the future demon king who would one day conquer Earth and rule all of humanity. The viewers immediately flooded the chat with messages congratulating him for making his embarrassing edgy phase public. Ignoring his dramatic speech, Ryan and Joji decided to head back outside since the police would arrive soon. Kibiak shouted at them and demanded that they stop ignoring him. Joji covered his ears and told him to stop pretending already. At that moment, the poacher spoke up. They admitted that it might sound unbelievable, but Dr. Kibiak was truly the one who hired them. Joji was shocked by the revelation. Kibiak sounded pleased that they were finally listening. He proudly claimed that he had created the capture plan and supplied the robots. According to him, this was only one of many money-making schemes he had invented. Ryan shook his head. Even if Kibiak was joking, this was not funny at all. He warned that Kibiak could end up getting arrested. Kibiak laughed again and declared that he was not foolish enough to leave any evidence behind. He guessed they still did not believe him, so he decided to show them something. Kibiak told everyone to gather around the pole. Confused, Joji asked what it was for since it looked like an ordinary store-bought pole. Ryan also could not detect any trap function from it. The poachers then claimed that the pole could send them outside. Joji tried to ask what they meant, but before anyone could explain, the pole suddenly shone with a bright light that blinded everyone nearby. The baby Volgira stared in shock as everyone disappeared. Only the pole remained inside the dungeon. A moment later, Joji and the others found themselves inside a truck van. In the center stood a strange machine that looked like a mechanical plant. It had a round glass container that resembled a fruit. Confused, Joji asked where they were. Just moments ago, they had been inside the dungeon. Kibiak asked if they were surprised that they had been transported outside instantly. He proudly introduced the machine and called it the Dungeon Hacker. According to him, it was a remarkable invention that allowed people to enter and leave dungeons whenever they wanted. Joji found that hard to believe, but Ryan confirmed that it was real. She checked the jeeps and reported that they were now in an alley near the dungeon entrance. According to the data, they had truly left the dungeon in an instant. The viewers could hardly believe what they were hearing. Some remained doubtful, while others were already starting to believe Kibiak. Kibiak was pleased by their reactions. He felt that the viewers were finally beginning to understand how dangerous and brilliant he was. He was excited to use the live stream to show the world his achievements. He declared himself the great Dr. Kibiak and demanded recognition from everyone. Then he burst into loud laughter. At that moment, a voice suddenly interrupted him. A little girl called him by a cute nickname and informed him that dinner was ready. Joji and the others listened as Kibiak argued with the girl for interrupting his grand introduction. The girl reminded him that it was time to eat because his limited edition instant ramen was getting cold. Kibiak became furious. Instead of blaming the interruption, he shifted the blame to Joji. He complained that Joji had ruined his plans and vowed to make him pay someday. Just like that, the call ended. Ryan looked confused and asked what had just happened. Joji had no idea. As far as the viewers were concerned, they had just watched a dramatic villain get interrupted by a dinner call. The group suddenly heard familiar voices behind them. Someone opened the back of the truck to check if more poachers were hiding inside. Instead, they found the usual friendly pair of police officers. The officers were shocked to see Joji and the others there. Soon after, the livestream ended. The police arrested 3 people, the 2 poachers and the truck driver. According to the female officer, the 3 claimed they had only met for the first time that day. They also said they knew nothing about Dr. Kibiak. They explained that a mysterious person with a hidden face had provided the robots and other equipment. Other than that, they did not know anything about the person behind everything. Even so, Joji felt relieved that familiar officers had come to investigate. Because of that, he and the others were able to return to the dungeon much sooner. The male officer told Joji that he and his group could join the investigation as witnesses. However, until the investigation was finished, ordinary civilians were not allowed to enter the area. Joji thanked the officer for supporting the team. The officers knew Joji and the others were worried about the Volgira. They also wanted to check how much damage had been done. They believed that if Joji came along, the monsters would appear without hesitation. Just then, the female officer spotted the mother and baby Volgira nearby. Joji quickly confirmed that it was them. He felt relieved to see that both of them were safe. The baby Volgira suddenly rushed toward Joji and slammed into his stomach. The police could only smile as they watched. Monsters always seemed to like Joji, no matter where he went. Joji gently patted the baby Volgira on the head and apologized for disappearing without warning. Then something unexpected happened. Joji became worried. He realized that he had somehow tamed both the mother and the baby. Everyone around him was stunned. Later at Ohagi Ranch, other monsters were moving around freely. Joji was holding the baby Volgira in his arms. Dr. Kawazu was checking the mother Volgira's health and confirmed that she was recovering well. He said she needed a few more days of rest as a safety step, but she would be fine. Even so, he did not expect Joji to actually tame a Volgira. When he learned it was a mother and baby pair, he thought he was hearing things. Joji also said he never expected it either. After the incident, the Volgira stayed at Ohagi Ranch. The authorities said there was no past case of a protected monster becoming friendly with humans. Because of this, both the mother and child were kept under Joji's care for treatment while the guild decided what to do next. Joji was thankful to Ryan and the police officers for speaking with the higher authorities. Dr. Kawazu also confirmed that the baby Volgira was completely healthy. He was relieved that both the mother and child had only minor injuries. Still, he was surprised by how skilled the poachers were. Monsters that were raising their young were usually very aggressive and dangerous. Even getting close to them was difficult. For poachers to take only the child without killing the mother was shocking. After hearing this, Joji realized what had happened was not normal. The doctor believed it was done by someone who truly understood monster behavior, which made it even worse because that knowledge was used for crimes. Joji then wondered who Dr. Kibiak really was. Just then, Sable called out that Megumi was looking for them. He said the visitors they had been waiting for had finally arrived. Joji returned home and found Megumi feeling flustered after serving tea to their guests. She asked him to hurry because the people from the Explorer Management Bureau were waiting. Joji apologized for making them wait and introduced himself. A black-haired man bowed and said he was not in a position to take up Joji's time. He handed over his business card and thanked him for his time. He introduced himself as Inuj Shiro. His subordinate introduced herself as Kozuka Yon. The cheerful subordinate then brought out documents and said they should begin right away. They explained the situation about the Volgira parent and child that Joji had rescued. They confirmed that special permission had been approved. This meant Joji was allowed to continue protecting the 2 monsters. However, Inuj explained that there were conditions. Joji needed to cooperate with monster research. They also assured him that it would not involve any shady experiments. The research would focus on basic health checks, and the monsters would have regular examinations from Dr. Kawazu. Even now, humans still do not know much about monsters. Information from protected monsters like the Volgiras was very valuable. Intelligent species like Kate Siths and kobolds were especially important because they could greatly affect society in the future. High-ranking officials strongly wanted access to this kind of data. Because of this, regular checkups would also include the collection of biological information. This cooperation would not be free. In return, Joji would be allowed to keep the Volgiras. The kobolds and other monsters would also be registered for exploration work. They would also be allowed to form a monster-only team to enter dungeons. Their medical costs would be covered, and they would also be paid for their cooperation in research. Joji was surprised that they were offering so many benefits. Allowing monsters to explore dungeons on their own would also help test their behavior in society. Inage then asked for his thoughts and told him to ask any questions he had. Joji reviewed the documents again and noticed that Ohagi was not included in the data collection. They confirmed that Ohagi was not part of the research. Dr. Kawazu patted Joji on the shoulder and asked if he was worried about Ohagi's special ability. He said it was better to keep her dungeon creation power a secret. He also assured Joji that nothing about Ohagi was included in the contract, and that all the terms were in Joji's favor. He encouraged Joji to sign it. After hearing this, Joji signed the papers without hesitation. The contract was then completed, and both sides looked forward to working together. Joji also asked the same in return. At that moment, Inage became serious and tightened his handshake with Joji. He brought out a toy and asked to spend a short time playing with the Kate Siths. Kazuka apologized and explained that Inage had loved cats his whole life. After all the serious discussion, the government worker ended up spending time playing with the cats. A few days later, Joji and Ohagi started a new live stream to introduce the newest members of the ranch. Joji called out the Volgiras and named the mother Tayaki and the child Dorayaki. The viewers could not believe that his naming style had not changed. Joji also reminded everyone that taming a monster parent with its child was not allowed. He explained that they had received special permission from the guild to protect the two, so others should not try to do the same. Many viewers doubted it would have been easy to tame them in the first place. They believed only Joji would have been able to do it. Also, Zenzai was in a good mood. With all the gear they had prepared, it was finally time to start their dream project of building a hot spring. The viewers were very excited as well. Zenzai's tail was wagging a lot. First, they dug a hole. Zenzai became serious and dug into the ground with his large front paws. Joji was left speechless while holding a shovel. In just a few minutes, they finished digging a large hole in the ground. Next, they made concrete by mixing store-bought cement with volcanic ash from the Volgiras. Everyone watched as the cement was mixed. Sable explained the history of ancient Rome and how volcanic ash was used in cement in the past. For the third step, they poured the cement into a mold. To do this, they asked Canton for help. In an instant, Canton filled the hole with his slime body and hardened into a tub shape. The viewers were shocked by how useful Canton was. Joji then poured cement into the space between Canton and the hole. Next, they decorated the surface with smooth and slippery stones. The stones slipped through Canton's body and settled at the bottom. Ohagi helped by adding her favorite marbles. After waiting for the cement to set, they moved to the final step. It was time to fill it with hot water. Tayaki released hot water from her dorsal fin and filled the hole. With that, the Ohagi hot springs were finished. The center was deeper, made for larger monsters with big bodies. The viewers were amazed by the hot spring. Everyone quickly jumped into the warm water and enjoyed a bath. Joji felt happy seeing everyone relaxed. He tried the water himself, but it was too hot for him and felt almost like boiling water. He could not believe his monsters were swimming in it so easily. The viewers became worried for Joji. They expected monsters to handle high heat better. They were also happy that Zenzai finally got the bath he had always wanted. Joji realized he needed to adjust the temperature more if humans were going to use it. The project was done, but it still needed improvements. He suggested making separate baths for men and women. Tayaki liked the idea, and Zenzai agreed. Joji then spoke to the viewers and asked them to look forward to future improvements of the hot springs. Ohagi waved goodbye to them. The viewers thanked them for the content. After several days of improvements, Nishiyuma visited and said he wanted to see the Ohagi hot springs. He had seen it on stream and was impressed that it was an open-air bath. Director Gyubo said that people did not often get to soak in a Volgira-powered hot spring. He hoped he could add something similar to his monster park. Chacha and Bunbuku also arrived. Joji and Ohagi welcomed them. Director Gyubo thanked Joji for inviting everyone. Nishiyuma was happy to be among the first to try the improved hot springs. Joji explained that the other guests were already inside, so they should take their time and relax. When Nishiyuma went inside, he was impressed that the place felt like a real hot spring. In the men's bath, Nishiyuma and Director Gyubo were joined by Dr. Kawazu, Hanzo, and a male police officer. The police officer felt deeply relaxed in the warm water and thanked Joji for the invitation. His partner was also happy. Joji said it was his way of showing thanks for their help during the kobold incident. Hanzo said the spring water helped melt away his fatigue. Dr. Kawazu added that it was good for a long soak. Joji and Kanten later brought drinks for everyone to enjoy while they rested in the bath. In the women's bath, Chacha joined Megumi, Ryan, and a female police officer. Ryan and the officer asked Megumi about her feelings toward Joji and wondered why he often left such a kind, sweet girl alone. Megumi felt overwhelmed by their attention. Chacha became angry and told them to stop. She leaned against the wall separating the men's and women's baths and warned them to be quiet because she couldn't hear the men on the other side. Cha-Cha then started imagining the men in the bath and became flustered by her own thoughts. Megumi noticed her reaction and asked what she was imagining besides just bathing. Ryan found Cha-Cha amusing. Meanwhile, Joji felt uneasy even though he was soaking in the warm hot spring. After the bath, everyone drank cold glasses of fresh Kaushika milk. Ryan said the soak felt nice and that she might come back again. Director Gyubo agreed that the hot springs should be opened as a business. Nishiyama also agreed and suggested making special items for the place. Joji thought that hot spring eggs could be made there. Nishiyama said that having snacks and drinks after bathing would be perfect. Sable said he would take that idea. Joji thought he would make a cooking video. Sable said that alone would not attract viewers. He suggested using monster eggs instead. He explained that making hot spring eggs from different kinds of monster eggs would be a rare treat. He also said it could include a taste test of the eggs. Ryan noticed that Joji and the others would not have time to rest after building the facility. Meanwhile, Zenzai kept enjoying the bath and wondered what eggs were. A few days later, Joji and the others tried boiling eggs using the hot spring water. Megumi found them very tasty. The egg yolk turned rich, creamy, and smooth, and it went down easily. She did not expect cheap eggs to turn out like that. Even with seasoning, Joji noticed a slight saltiness. He wondered if it came from the minerals in the water. Megumi finally agreed with Sable's idea and Joji became excited about it. Sable laughed proudly and said his idea was perfect. He then shared his plan and called it Egg Jackpot Hot Spring Egg Party. He explained that the dungeon they would visit was a jungle type. Joji thought it was like the place where Sable and the others used to live and Sable confirmed it, but said this dungeon had taller trees. Bird-type monsters lived in those trees, and Sable planned for them to collect eggs from the monsters' nests. They would then turn those eggs into hot spring eggs. He also said that good videos get more views so they could do different activities like taste tests, rankings, and eating challenges. Megumi said that streaming the egg collecting would be fun to watch. Joji agreed and got ready to leave, but before going, he wanted another serving of the hot spring eggs. They were already gone. Zenzai quietly licked his lips. Soon after, Joji and the others started a live stream in a jungle dungeon to collect eggs. Viewers could not believe they were going out of their way just for hot spring eggs. Joji confirmed that nests were spread all over the area. He relied on Sable for the plan. Sable agreed and said he would handle it. He was fully equipped for the jungle. He confidently explained that Kate Siths were skilled at climbing trees. He then quickly climbed a tall tree. Joji watched with admiration. Sable reached the nest with ease. While he was collecting eggs, a bird-type monster appeared behind him. Joji and Ohagi watched as Sable was grabbed by strong claws and carried into the sky. Joji called out in concern. Sable struggled while being carried and feared that he would be dropped because of the fall below. The bird then released him. He screamed as he fell toward the ground. Before he could hit the ground, Ohagi caught him by biting onto his clothes and stopping his fall. Sable was grateful for the rescue. The viewers also became nervous after watching what happened. After that, bird-type monsters began calling to each other across the jungle. Joji assumed they were now alert. He suggested stopping the collection of eggs from trees. Sable apologized for the mistake. Joji said it was not his fault and that he should have considered the danger of being attacked. As Joji looked through his binoculars, he noticed something moving in the branches. A gecko-like monster sneaked into a nest and ate the eggs whole. Joji was shocked. Sable identified it as a sneak thief gecko.